Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of the City Commission. This August the 5th. If you could all rise, please, to the Pledge of Allegiance. Oh, no, excuse me. Roll call, please.
Who's got the feedback?
Commissioner Marker,
I'm here.
Deputy Vice Mayor Long,
Here.
Vice Mayor Cassell,
Here.
Commissioner Burns,
Here.
Mayor Carney.
Here. There's actually said so in here anyway. If you could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. You may be seated. Okay, we have agenda approval. Are there any additions, subtractions?
I would like to make some subtractions. I'm just, the agenda changed a bunch of times, so I want to make sure I'm accurate. 6B, Sunday village parking. What does that become? 7AA?
Hold on, let me pull out because they did change, so my version's different than Joe.
I know. I apologize for that.
So you want to make,
The approval of the parking facility easement agreement. 6B becomes 7AA, please.
you want 6B to become 7AA, fine?
That's correct. And then 6D is the fiscal year amendment. Do you want that to be 7BB?
As you wish. If you want to pull it, we'll make it 7BB.
Thank you. And then 6E, the emergency management grant, 7CC. And 6K, sunshine cleaning, please, 7DD.
6K?
Yes, K. Approval of Amendment 5 to
Okay,
RFP.
so this would be 7DD.
That's right. And that's all I have. Thank
Okay.
you.
Mr. Long, Mr. Marker,
I'm good.
Ms. Burns, okay. Then we need a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Marker,
Yes.
Deputy Vice Mayor Long,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cassell,
Yes.
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
Mayor Carney.
Yes, thank you very much. We have a presentation this afternoon. It's morning somewhere.
Evening.
This evening.
Yes.
Here at 6:04 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, we have a presentation. So-
Yes. So the one presentation that's formally scheduled as far as Section 4 is from representatives of the City of Delray Beach Public Art Advisory Board to offer some thoughts and considerations for City Commission's eventual review and evaluation. So we've asked them or have invited them to join us for about a 10-minute exercise to offer their thoughts in this regard, and they work closely with Assistant City Manager Jeff Orris to prepare for this evening's dialogue accordingly. So with that, Mr. Orris, above and beyond what I've just shared in terms of introductory comments, I think we're all set, but please feel free to kick us off.
Yeah, the one thing I do want to say is there was some slight change in the presentation that you'll be seeing. Nothing substantive at all, just a little cleanup on it. So it may vary a little bit differently if you saw the version that was sent to you earlier.
Yes.
No major changes at all. No minor changes, just some rearrangement and cleaning up. I'm going to, at this time, well, first of all, I should let you know that we've got 4 current board members that I see in the room, as well as 1 former board member, Joe Aaronstein's over in the corner, Andrea Sherman, Bob Costello, Sarah Huang, and Chair Max Zengage. Max is going to start the presentation off, and then Sarah will jump in and finish it off.
Great. Max, you have the floor.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can we get the presentation on the screen?
You're going to have to pull that microphone closer to you so that they can hear you.
Make sure it's
Can we get the presentation on the screen, please? Do we need it on the screen?
It's on its way, right?
There it comes.
Good evening.
We've got it.
A little feedback going on here.
There we go.
So this, can you hear me okay? Good evening. This is the recommendation and report from the Public Art Advisory Board.
I'm not sure if people can hear you.
You have to really, push it right. Be close to it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Good evening. This is the recommendation and report from the Public Art Advisory Board. This is truly 5 years in the making and really 20 years in the making, but we are here today to ask for your guidance on a public art master plan and also a utility box pilot program. So just want to preface this with there was a master plan beginning in 2004. It never was completed, and today we are here to ask to revive that and really make a mission for our city to figure out how to maintain and implement future guidance. So here we have the city LDRs, and what we do as an advisory board is first we get appointed by the commission for expertise and qualifications. Then we review applications that have been prepped by the Development Services Department and the appropriate departments. Once it comes to us, we review if they meet the LDRs, and once we deem if they do, if they don't, if they need to be amended to do so, we advise per that, as we are an advisory board member, made recommendations. It's not a final decision at that time, but we have been very clear on most every application that has come to us. So that is the first step in identifying what really guides us is the adopted city LDRs. Public art is important in Delray Beach. It has been for over 20 years, and it really has it's had some momentum through private investment and private building owners asking for murals, private right-of-ways and public right-of-ways asking for sculptures or being gifted with sculptures. Here you can see some functional artwork, bike racks, and the meter men that signify a public parking lot. It really works to improve street safety, increases tourism. It does provide new jobs, and it combats social isolation anxiety. The enhancement to economy has been clearly documented by the DDA, as well as several other cities that have joined the National Public Art Association. So there is clear evidence throughout our country and in neighboring cities that this is an important aspect of our town. And we are very proud to have a lot of public art and good quality public art that does meet all the LDRs. How does public art add to the economy? Recent studies show that as an industry, it has contributed $4.4 billion to the worldwide economy last year. And even though an artist commission is an approved amount at the beginning, most of that money does end up going to many other subcontractors and jobs and businesses in the city that are local. The activities of the board, of the advisory board, we have two main roles. We make quasi-judicial decisions on murals when they meet the LDRs, and we make recommendations for sculptures that have been offered in a installation aspect. So as pictured here, this is the Elders mural on the wall of 95. It's one of several murals throughout our town. But this has really been a big topic of discussion over the last 12 months and, as I mentioned, 5 years of this board. Maintenance of existing public art. So the city owns a lot of public art, sculptures, murals, and metal pieces, if you will. So we need a plan that shows maintenance, because currently there is none, and we need just a document that can guide us. We also want to mention that we do have a public art trust fund in the city. This board doesn't have access to that. If we ever want to unlock it, we do need to come to you to ask for a recommendation to unlock it. But that's very limited, and we haven't had to do so far because there's no funding mechanism for that. Activities of the board. These are 7 murals that we have reviewed and approved in the last 12 months. Very straightforward to the LDRs, and we did our job correctly there. This is a mention of the DDA and how strong our community is with culture and arts. And we have galleries, murals, installations. We have cultural organizations throughout the town. We have monthly art walks. Pictured in the background is a large investment from the city in the entrance, the gateway to our town. So it's the very first thing that visitors see is public art welcoming them to Delray Beach. Delray's public art is important because of so many reasons, but these are some that we were able to make tangible for you to see tonight. No new city-funded public art has been approved in the last 6 years. This is, some may say, very different than very neighboring cities, that we would promote ourselves as more culturally and artistically advanced as, but we haven't reached that milestone yet. That's another reason why we need a plan. No new city-funded public art has been installed in the last 3 years, so we had some approvals that were lingering, and then we were able to actually implement them. We do not have a dedicated funding mechanism for public art and no maintenance of the existing art that the city owns. So we do want to address that, and we do ask for your guidance in making presentations and recommendations for such a plan. And this plan would, of course, have community input. Based on the discussions over the last 2 years, the Public Art Advisory Board would like to make 2 recommendations tonight to the City Commission. Both recommendations are fully funded in the current city budget and would break the stagnation of the city's public art program it's currently experiencing. Now I'm going to hand it over to Co-Chair Sarah.
Thank you, Max. My name is Sarah Wong. I'm a board member on the Public Art Advisory Board. So moving forward, our first recommendation is first create a public art master plan. Max has made a couple of mentions about this so far, but what we are concerned with as the PAAB is the lack of any real ongoing public art program. The city, it touts its connection to the art as an economic driver, and it promotes it as part of our overall culture, but we do not have a plan or an idea as to what we want from public art. What type of art are we looking for? What are we seeking out? What are the plans to maintain the art? And what should we accept as donations? I'm limited on time here, so I'm just going to kind of go through the next couple slides very quickly. We have spent a significant amount of time researching and discussing what would work best for the city. And in order for us to move forward, we do recommend that the city engages a professional to prepare a public art master plan. And we suggest that the following also be combined into a proper scope of work for this endeavor. All of these other cities are doing it. Why aren't we? So moving forward, number 1, first and foremost, the master plan scope of work. Bullet point 1 is establish and implement a mission, vision, values, and clear goals that will set up the public arts master plan. And that includes action strategies, including short and long-term priorities, estimated budget costs, clear implementation dates. We are also looking at several other bullet points here, like recommended policies and programs related to the ultimate implementation of the mission, vision, and goals for the Public Arts Master Plan, reviewing and recommending public art guidelines, policies, and processes, and also establishing a thorough inventory and assessment of the city's cultural assets and opportunities. We are also looking at development of guidelines for the inclusion of public art in public art improvement projects. That includes site identification criteria or other recommendations for placement of art in sites for future temporary and permanent public art projects. This would also then lend itself to for us to undertake a more comprehensive community outreach program and fully engage the residents and stakeholders in the community. Is that time? Could we get more time? All right,
Yeah,
and
please-
so.
yeah, just please continue.
Okay,
I-
thank you
yeah,
so much. Yeah, I wasn't
I'm sorry.
sure.
You're not on the clock there.
So, thank you. So anyway, so that would also culminate through that comprehensive community outreach and shaping this to be a fully engaged program for the residents and stakeholders of the community of Delray Beach. That would also allow us to undertake more specific outreach to the diverse and underserved populations of the city, and then identify specific opportunities for public art engagement, beneficial for our entire community. So with that said, the Public Art Master Plan does give us a guide. It gives us an outline to which we can achieve many of these multifaceted projects in the city. So our second recommendation to you guys here is the utility box wrapping pilot program. And so the PAAB recommends a pilot project to wrap utility boxes in the downtown area of the city. This is a program that's been implemented in other nearby cities in South Florida. And so what this process would look like includes selecting, to start off, selecting key boxes in the downtown area. We would also release a call to artists and engage those artists, or maybe a collective of artists, to design the wrappings. And we would also in turn work with Florida Power and Light and or the Palm Beach County Traffic for approvals to wrap the boxes. And so I'm not going to go through and list all of the locations here, but you will see over on the right-hand side of the slides, we have already identified about 7 locations for the utility box wrapping pilot project. And so you can see just a way that we would be able to further enhance and add some really cool intrigue, curb appeal to these locations here. And then these are the last remaining 3 of those locations. Again, pictured on the right are the utility boxes that we would also identify for wrapping. We also have examples of wrapping. These are wrapped utility boxes that can be found in the city of Pompano Beach. Pompano Beach does have an ongoing wrapping program and a pretty great public arts program as well. And just looking at this slide here, you'll see a great diversity, multitude, different types of styles that can be showcased through this. And just to wrap it up for you all, the PAAB, we recognize the need for our city ultimately to move forward with our recommendation to implement a public art master plan. The master plan is going to provide a strong and strategic foundation it's something that is utilized by cities large and small in Florida and all across the nation. And by doing so, by having this plan, we will ensure that art remains a critical component of public life. It ensures that art remains visible and that is regularly maintained in the public sphere. And so with the PAA's mission, visions, and values firmly established within our master plan, projects such as that utility box wrapping pilot can also be implemented in the city. So we would ultimately like to see the city move forward with this project and make it the first city-funded public art project to be approved in over 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Does the commission have any questions or inquiries? Is there anything you need to say, Mr.
Yeah,
Rose?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, one of the things I can share with you is that the city did allocate up to $40,000 in the current year's budget for this effort. It was not a specific line item, so we do need to come forward and ask for your approval to move forward with that, as well as the utility boxes could be paid for from the Public Art Trust Fund and the dollars that exist there right now.
Thank you. Mr. Long, any?
Thank you for the presentation. Really appreciate it. If we're going to have boards like this, I want to make sure that you guys, we're getting the most out of your volunteer hours and that we have a strategic direction. I didn't realize we didn't have a master plan for our art board. I'm glad this is on our radar now, and I think it is something we should move forward with if it's already budgeted. I love the idea of wrapping the utility boxes in town. I think it's a great idea. This is why we have you guys, right? To come up with great concepts like that. So thank you.
Commissioner Mark?
I'd like to say thank you for the presentation. I learned a lot. It was really clear. I'm in favor of this. I think some of those boxes that are downtown are kind of ugly, and I think throwing some color and some lively graphics at it is just going to make our city even more livable. So I'm very positive on this.
Commissioner Burns?
Yes, thank you for the presentation as well. And I feel that if we're going to continue to promote our city as art as culture, we need to have a plan to go along with it. I wanted to ask Ms. Orris, what, the Public Art Trust funds, where do those funds come from?
Those funds come from approximately 1.5% of the budget for vertical construction that the city does. That's valued, I believe it's over 200,000. So it's essentially coming from our own budget right now.
Okay.
I do have some thoughts about that I'll bring to you another time.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Commissioner Casal?
Yeah, did you all, Mr. Orris, did you check with Public Works or any other departments impacted by this? And the wrapping seems, it looks nice in the pictures, and I appreciate you all coming forward with that idea. But I know there's probably guidelines with FPL, and there was also talk about, is that 34,546 available balance? That's the full balance in that account?
That is not the full balance in that
What's the
account.
full
There
balance
is-
in that
The
account?
full balance is $40,000. However, right now there is $7,500 that's allocated to an ongoing project that's not done yet, that was approved back in 2018. It's still ongoing. It got delayed because of the pandemic, and the artist is almost complete with everything going on, so I do need to hold that money aside to finish that project.
Okay, because in some meetings, there was talk about potentially putting art in the stairwells at the Old School Square garage, and the idea that the fund money could be utilized for that. So I think that someone needs to confer with the other departments that are involved to talk about, what is the best use. An art master plan sounds amazing, but right now, are we putting that on the budget?
I don't think so, but certainly a master plan is in order.
I totally don't disagree. We're in a precarious budget
But I don't know
situation
what it will
right
take
now.
to get to the master plan, so I'm not,
Right, and
I
it's
don't-
a period of time. But
may
I
not
also,
be
I think
much.
that we should confer with the other departments with respect to how this works. In other words, what are the FPL design guidelines? What's the time frame? Before I'm going to make a decision, I would like you to also speak to Ms. Barletto's department.
I have had a conversation with Missy, and we do recognize this is not going to be an easy project to do.
How
FPL
could you
does have
explain-
some guidelines. They are written.
When you
as
say
well as-
it's not going to be easy, could you elaborate on what you're saying?
Sure. FPL has guidelines on what they'll allow, and making sure that whatever an artist comes up with would be allowable by them would be one aspect that's going to not be a smooth process. The other is
Why?
if
You
if
say
they're-
allowed, you mean content control?
Well, exactly what it is, they will
They're their
allow on their
boxes.
boxes. None of these boxes are owned by the city.
Correct.
They're all either belong to FP&L or they belong to the county's traffic control division. I have spoken with folks in the traffic control division. They said, sure, we'll work with you. I don't know exactly what that means yet because we haven't tried to work with them on this yet. We do see these wraps in other cities, so it's doable. What it's going to take to get us there, I couldn't say for certain.
What is the cost when you're talking about a pilot program to wrap a couple of boxes? How many did you say would be?
It would be 7.
7 boxes. What's the cost for that?
It's hard to say exactly what the cost is going to be because the idea is to do a call to artists and do something unique. So it depends on exactly what we want to cap out the artist's fee at, and then what it would cost to turn their art into wraps.
Well, maybe we should gather more information and come back to us with that to make a determination. Because with no idea of what it's costing, not that I don't disagree, this fund could be utilized for that, and I think it's a great idea, but I'd also like you to talk to the department head and come back to us with something a little more solid, if you don't mind. Is that okay, Mayor? Is that
It
a
is.
good
I mean,
request?
yes, thank you.
Thank
I mean,
you.
I think it's a great idea. And those 7 boxes that you showed, they're really beautiful the way they are. And of course, they wouldn't be enhanced at all by any of this public artwork. So, I mean, I've always been a big supporter of public art, and there are obviously some financial consideration that this commission needs to address, and timing, and to see what we have in the various funds, because they're not unlimited funds. But certainly the concept of having some kind of a master plan is certainly a good idea. I know other cities have it, and maybe the cost isn't going to be so great if you can, I dare say, borrow from other master plans that are out there. Which the one Pompano I know is pretty good plan. And by the way, I've seen those boxes they have down there, and it's really, it's a enhancing feature to some interchanges. So I want to encourage you to keep going. We do need to address the issue that Commissioner Casal raised, but I certainly think that improving the unsightly boxes would certainly be a plus for the people that are downtown. So I want to thank you for
Can
that
I
idea.
have a
I'm sorry,
question?
go ahead.
So wouldn't this plan also include maintenance of the art that we already have in our city?
Well, that's part of their plan is going to be
Okay,
maintenance
so-
of the public art.
So we're discussing whether we want wrapped boxes or whether we want the plan or not. I thought the issue here is, do we need a master plan?
This is really what we're talking about.
Okay.
Yes.
There are
Okay.
two issues here. One
Okay.
is whether we wrap utility boxes, and again, that would come from the Public Art Trust Fund, and whether we wish to do a master public art plan. As I mentioned, there is money that was allocated in
Right.
this year's budget for that, although it was not segregated as its own line item.
Okay, thank you.
So how do we move the ball down the field here with these two items as far as getting back the information we need to make a decision? What would the next step be that makes everybody happy?
Mr. Zengage, you have something to add?
If I may jump in real fast. Tonight's decision, a request, is to approve moving forward with exploring the utility box. It's not to pay for the utility box. We would, once we do the whole RFP and all that process, we would come back here and ask to unlock the Public Art Trust Fund in order to move forward with actually implementing the box.
Okay.
So tonight's approval ask is not to fund the boxes, it's to explore the boxes and to actually go about finding out what the costs are.
Is there any objection to trying to get that? Do we have consensus?
No,
I think
I just would ask that they confer with the other departments with respect to the
That would be
other
enough.
thoughts
Yes.
on some of the art.
So you'll confer with the others to make sure that we're all compatible? Yes?
Yes.
We're in agreement?
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Zengage. Thank you, Sarah.
That was for the utility box wrapping. Do we need to ask for the motion for the master plan?
Well, I think
I think we have to hold off on that.
we're going to hold off on the master plan right now, because, but I would encourage you to get some master plans from other places and come back to us an idea of what it would cost us to put together a master plan, what it would entail for us to put together a master plan. I certainly think we need a master.
I think they think it's about $40,000, but I think at this point
I don't want to blow the whole trust fund on the master plan. Is my point.
well, the trust fund was already blown on the boxes. It's one or the other. If you're asking them to choose one or the other, they don't have enough for the master plan. They're looking for the city to take that from the general fund, the $40,000 for the master plan. And I think in light of the current financial situation this year, where
We might be dealing with an either or at this point.
So once we come back with the evaluation relative to the utility boxes, there will be a better opportunity to analytically offer direction. So that is the direction, that is consensus. We'll work with the Public Art Advisory Board accordingly via Jeff Orris as Assistant City Manager, and we'll offer considerations in due time.
So we will get some numbers then on
Yes,
what
sir.
the master plan would cost before we make a decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think when we're putting the presentations on the agenda, we need to keep in mind what our monetary status is at the present moment.
I'm always in that place, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you
You're
very
welcome.
much. Thank you all for coming and for your time.
Thank you.
Great job, guys.
We now have comments and inquiries on agenda and non-agenda items from the public. The first is going to be the city manager's response to prior comments and inquiries.
Thank you, Mayor. So I have two formal presentations highlighted on the agenda. However, I do have a third that I would like to have first, and it's actually fairly brief. And it is in response to some experiences the Office of the City Manager has had over the last few months regarding the prospect or the question relative to what is known as the super senior exemption. It actually came up back in April via one of Commissioner Burns's community meetings, as well as possibly one or two others of you who may have been experiencing inquiries along these lines. And she was therefore kind enough to join us briefly this evening to offer an update in terms of what that looks like, how that would work, and how that's actually taking effect in different communities throughout Palm Beach County. So with that, a brief presence by our illustrious Palm Beach County property appraiser, Dorothy Jacks.
Thank you. Is here best or over here? What do you prefer?
Wherever you're most comfortable.
Wherever you're most comfortable.
Okay. I don't want you all to strain your strain your necks, but it's a pleasure to be with you this evening. City Manager Moore asked me to come down and just give you just a very quick rundown of what the super senior is. As he mentioned, Commissioner Burns invited me to speak to a community organization, community group in April, and this subject came up. And so I wanted to come and share a little bit more about the super, what we call affectionately the super senior. If we could go to the next slide, please. So, as you know, many residents are qualified and receive the property tax. I'm sorry, do I need to do this?
I think you need to.
Thank you.
You need to do.
Okay. Thank you. Do qualify for the Florida homestead exemption. Homestead exemption, of course, is an exemption given to people who are primary residents and claim their home as their first and only permanent residence. Senior exemption is an additional exemption that you receive once you've received homestead. You in Delray Beach many years ago approved the senior exemption, which is an additional $25,000 exemption given to residents who are over age 65 and who have a reduced household income. You'll see the number there on bullet point number 3. It was about 36,000, almost 37,000 household gross income for 2024. You have 770 residents who qualify for the senior exemption now, okay? So the super senior, what that contemplates is a new or additional exemption given to those same 700 residents who are receiving the senior exemption. So in other words, over age 65, under this income limitation of $36,000. However, the super senior requires that they have maintained residency in the same home for 25 years or longer, bullet point, the red bullet points, and that the year that they apply, their market value on their home is $250,000 or less. So what this exemption contemplates is the seniors who are low income, who have resided here a long time, and who have a home that is not high value, okay? So we only have one other city in Palm Beach County that has approved this super senior exemption, and that is Boynton Beach, your neighbors to the north. They have 36 people who qualify for this benefit. In your city, we did run the numbers because we, of course, know who qualifies for the senior, and we know whose value is below $250,000, and we know the year they applied for homestead. So using that data, you would have somewhere between 30 and 40 residents who would qualify if we approved it today. Now, you couldn't approve it today. You would need to approve it for 2025 because, of course, you'd have to do it before the end of the year, and we'd start it for next year. But I wanted to present you with those numbers. It is a very small amount of tax. Let me go back. An exemption, of course, by its nature, removes money from the tax roll. But in the case of this exemption in particular, it would be a small amount of revenue removed from the coffers of the city of Delray, probably less than a couple $1,000s a year. Okay? The number of people that qualify the next year does not change a lot because, of course, think about it. If you have been in your home 25 years, if you leave your home, it's one of two you lose it. You lose this benefit. So in other words, the only new people that would come on each year would be new seniors who have lived in their home for 25 years and are below the income limitation. Okay? So I wanted to bring that to you to just sort of give you a sort of a bigger picture of what adopting the super senior would be like. You are allowed to approve up to $50,000 in exemption. Boynton Beach has chosen to approve $25,000, but you're certainly allowed to approve up to $50,000. You could approve $10,000. It's up to you as to what you wish to do for your city. So I know I don't want to spend a lot of your time tonight. I did just want to give that short presentation and tell you a bit more about it. Happy if you have any questions for me to answer them.
Actually, I just want to confirm, when you talk about the valuation, you're not talking about taxable value, you're talking about true fair market value as, who creates that value? Is it within your system?
Yes, it is the just value that we, the property appraiser, put on the property. And as you know, that is not usually exact fair market value. It's usually, we try to aim around 80 to 85% of true market.
Right.
Yeah. So, you know, it's not very high, and that number is set by the state of Florida, it is not set locally, unfortunately. I think our number, if we had to choose, would probably be a little higher than that because of the value of the homes in this county and certainly the counties to our south. But this is a statewide number, that 250,000.
Okay. Commissioner Long, any questions?
First of all, thank you so much, Ms. Jacks, for coming in. Really appreciate you being here and enlightening us on this, and I really appreciate Commissioner Burns being an advocate for this for a while now. I think it's a great program. I'd like to see us adopt this. I think there's a lot of our legacy families that have been here in Delray that are getting priced out, and this helps combat that. And so I'd be in favor of going up to the 50,000 exemption personally. That's where I'm at with this. Thank you.
Mr. Marker.
Thank you very much. Very, very enlightening. Can I just ask a question why Boynton chose to go to 25,000?
I really don't know. I could certainly find out, but probably just because it matches the number on the senior, which is 25,000, matches the number on the homestead, which is 25,000.
Okay.
We do have some cities that have adopted seniors at higher than that. I think Royal Palm Beach has it at 50,000.
Okay.
Not the super senior, but the regular senior. So yeah, we have differences from city to city.
Yeah. And Angela, I know you've been an advocate of this, and I appreciate that. I think this looks like an interesting idea.
Ms. Burns?
Yes, thank you again for coming back and giving us the follow-up information, and I'm hoping that I can get consensus from my colleagues to adopt the super senior program. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. And
I'm sorry. Please.
No, I'll just say thank you for your time.
Thank you. And I would be more than happy to, and I can work with City Manager Moore on the differences in the numbers depending on should you choose to go to 50, what that would mean versus should you go to 25, if that's of interest, because again, we do have a good feel for how many people would qualify. And just so you're aware, if you adopt it this year, my office would contact all of those who would be eligible and send them a letter, including the application, make sure they file. This is what we did in Boynton, and we got excellent response. Everybody responded to us. So we would hand in hand work with you on promoting it in the community.
Ms. Jacks, first of all, thank you so much for being here. I'm recently elected, I was here years ago. But during the campaign, I came across I'm sure I came across all of the people you say you qualified, because I walked a lot of neighborhoods. And one of the questions I have, because while it's only a couple of $1,000s or maybe 4,000 if you go to 50,000, that's real money to the people that are in these neighborhoods. And to the extent you can save a week's groceries for them, that's a real benefit. So I think that this is a worthwhile program. I look forward to you sending us back the numbers of what the actual impact would be. At the two levels, and we have till the end of
the year.
End of the year to make this determination. So
as in it ended the calendar year, not fiscal year.
No, right. I know there were January 1 drop date with valuation. So I really want to thank you for your time, and this is a great initiative, and I certainly think that we should very seriously consider trying to participate in some way on it. And
thank you. And City Manager Moore and I talk quite a bit. If there's anything else our office can help you with, we're more than happy to. At any time, I'd be happy to come back and talk. I have to say I am most impressed at your vote to go to rollback this year. You are the only city that has done that in Palm Beach County. I know it is tough. I know it is a tough decision for any city to make, to have those kinds of decisions, but it certainly is what truth and millage is all about, which is value increases, taxes should not also increase quite as much. But I know it's a tough decision, but I did want to mention that to you, that I was impressed to see that you had done that this year.
Well, we have a great staff and a great city manager, and they'll know where to find the stuff so that the services won't be disrupted, and we will be essential services, and but I appreciate your kind words on that, because it was spirited getting to that determination. So,
Well, thank you again for having me, and like I said, anything we can do for you, glad to help.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Jacks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. So I have two other brief presentations. So via the July 19th City Commission information letter, I provided a general update regarding the law enforcement camera expansion program and the steps to get to that place. During the previous City Commission meeting, Mayor Carney, you were pretty adamant in having an update in that regard, because there are some positive updates being executed.
And I remain
Likewise,
adamant.
yes, sir. So that's the written update, July 19th, and of course, I've asked leadership from the Delray Beach Police Department to accompany us today for a brief dialogue in terms of why we are where we are and the progress moving forward. Chief Major, Assistant Chief Racer, and Lieutenant Gary Ferreri. Gentlemen, please.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank all of you on the dais for helping support making this happen. Basically, the goal is technology through cameras. Our goal is to make sure the city of Delray is as safe as it can be, and through technology and cameras, the goal is so that when you come in our city, we know when you're here. It is state of the art. Some cities already have it, but I'd like to bring us up to where we should be with regard to technology. I would be remiss if I didn't also thank Missy and Anthea from Development Services and Public Works, the CRA, the DDA, City IT for their partnership and assistance. You don't realize, well, I'm sure you up on the dais do, there's a lot going on behind the scenes that makes this happen. You just don't go, oh, I want to put some cameras in the city. There's a lot of people involved and a lot of dots to connect to make these things happen. So I do want to say I thank you for everyone on the dais and those that I mentioned. I really do appreciate their assistance. I brought my team with me, Assistant Chief Razor and Lieutenant Gary Ferreri, who've done a significant amount of work. The goal is to show you where we are today and where we plan to go in the future. Gentlemen?
With that being said, as the chief said, in partnership with the CRA and the DDA, IT, the Delray Beach Police Department is planning on putting closed-circuit television cameras and license plate recognition cameras throughout the city to enhance public safety. All cameras will be publicly visible in locations where we have large public gatherings, as well as high traffic volume is expected. The cameras will also help provide an overwatch for many of our special events that occur annually in the city and serve as a force multiplier, giving the police department eyes out there.
One second, I think there's another.
Stand by.
One moment, I think the young lady.
Here we go.
All right, moving right along. Since 2022, as Chief Major said, his push has been to actively enhance camera technology throughout our city. The objective is to have these LPRs and CCTV cameras at every entry and exit point that lead in and out of our city. Just to give you an idea, in order to wire up an intersection, it costs about $180,000. Locations throughout the city have been selected based on traffic patterns, crime trends, special events, and other data. Lieutenant Ferreri?
There we go. So we have a couple of completed projects. We first started on West Atlantic Avenue, where we put license plate recognition cameras in the area near West Atlantic Avenue and I-95. That was completed in June of 2022. We replaced the cameras after they exceeded their useful life down on the Barrier Island. That project was completely completed in May of 2023 with some of the most state-of-the-art camera technology we can get out there in terms of license plate recognition cameras. In addition to that, leveraging some of that technology that was already in place, we did add 2 CCTV cameras at critical locations where we do have a high traffic volume and we're able to monitor those locations as needed. And that was completed in June of 2023. Going forward, we do have several current projects that are in the works. Here, go ahead.
Got it.
All right. So the projects we have currently in the works is one, an installation of LPR cameras, which is license plate recognition cameras, in the area of Linton Boulevard and I-95. This project was a project that we've been working on for a while. It was funded by the city. It went to the permit process on June 17, 2024, so just a little over a month ago. It's in the final review with planning and zoning at this point in time. The east side of 95 needs to get approved by the city of Delray Beach. The west side of 95, where we're putting our infrastructure, at first we fell into a county right-of-way, but the county had pushed us over to FDOT. So we're waiting for the Department of Transportation to get back to us with the latest update. All the equipment and all the hardware for this particular project, we do have on site at the police department. So once the permit is approved, the vendor will be out to install all that hardware. The second project, which we're touting or calling the Downtown Camera Project, which is in partnership with the CRA, the DDA, and the city of Delray Beach, this project is much more intensive. This project's going to entail boring from City IT down to downtown into the CRA district, bringing us to the Crest Theater, the old school parking garage, down East Atlantic Avenue, bringing us the critical infrastructure we need to be able to securely bring that technology or that video back to City IT where the servers and everything will be held. That project at this point in time, our vendor had submitted a permit initially. It was kicked back and denied, where they had to resubmit what's called a site permit. On July 22nd, Chief Major hosted a meeting with all the pertinent department heads to discuss this project in its entirety and also the urgency of trying to get this project done, hopefully before the holiday season and the event season, rather. Since that meeting, the executives from Everon, which is the contractor that we're using, had met with some of our leadership at the police department. They were expressing their eagerness to get this project started. Following this meeting, Missy Barletto did assign us a project manager from the city who we met with today, Bob Diaz, who seems like he's going to be a great addition to the team. We've been working really well with Rochelle over in planning and zoning. So all that's coming together really well at this point in time. In addition to that, our vendor did set up a meeting which is scheduled for August 12th with the planning and zoning, building department, and the public works department. So we seem to be on a good path right now with that particular project. And then we have a couple of future projects that are going on. The one project that we worked with all of you, with the city manager and Mr. Orris, we were awarded $963,000 through a Senate appropriation bill a couple of months ago, as you all know. We had an application package that we had to fill out with the Department of Justice. They gave us about 3 months to complete that application process, and with the help of Mayor Carney, we completed that application in less than 3 weeks, submitted the application, and we're just waiting to hear back from the Department of Justice. I routinely check their website. It's just in a submitted status. There's no one to talk to kind of get more information, but funding is expected shortly after October 1st of this coming fiscal year. The idea with those funds, my team in the Criminal Intelligence Unit, we've been out in the field looking at major entry exit points coming in and out of the city, looking at different areas based on statistical data related to crime, the most common routes that are traveled by offenders, trying to locate those locations where we want to put license plate cameras, and also meeting with the private businesses or property owners in those locations to see if we can leverage their electricity and their property to save money to be able to expand a further reach into the city with our technology. We're hoping to complete that project at the fall of 2025, but there's a lot of factors, obviously, depending on when the money comes, the procurement procedures that are given with that package from the Department of Justice. Another project that we're working on, we've been in discussions with the CRA and the DDA about future funding. We had asked the CRA for consideration of $400,000 to expand the CCTV camera project west on Atlantic Avenue and through the rest of the CRA district. And also we had asked the DDA for additional $30,000 to expand within their district as well. So right now I'm working with the criminal intelligence team, leadership at the police department, trying to identify what we think might be the best locations for future cameras. As we identify those areas, we do have a meeting set up. I believe it's Tuesday next week with Renee Jaddison from the CRA and her team to discuss our suggestions. Have a discussion, see if we're in line of where everybody wants to be, and then work with our project manager, see how practical it is, project manager from the city, and then present that to you guys for further guidance. Other than that, that's where we're at this point. You guys have any questions, comments, concerns?
Commissioner Gasol, I'll start with you this time.
Thanks. No, I would just say thank you. It's a great presentation. I'm glad the residents got to see what you're doing. I actually did the tour, and I was remarkably impressed, and I'm excited that you're doing this. I think this will be very useful for the residents and for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Burns.
No questions, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Commissioner Marker.
Yeah, great presentation, guys. I also had the good fortune to tour the facility. As most of you know, I run an FBI company called InfraGard, so I've seen what the feds have. And this technology, for a city of our size to have this technology because it works, it flat out works. I've seen it at the FBI. This is amazing that we're at this point. And to the very good point the lieutenant made, I won't give out the name, but I met with one business owner in Delray, and there is an open mind by many of our folks that own buildings in the city that they will chip in and they will help with the cameras and they will pay for the electricity, and our community's coming together over this. So I'm super impressed. This is amazing for a city of our size to have this technology, and it's going to do great things for our city.
Commissioner Long.
Well, thanks for the presentation. Appreciate it. This is a really exciting program for our city. I think this is the type of thing that makes a real difference in resident safety. Long term, it's preventative, and I think it's going to make residents feel a lot more safe here in Delray Beach. And so thank you guys for having a forward-thinking approach and ensuring that our city's on the cutting edge as it pertains to this sort of technology. So really excited about this. Thank you for the update.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you all for being here. You know, I've been big advocate of this program since it first started. I think we can push the DOJ a little bit too, so we're going to work on that. Because I think this is so valuable to the. I don't think the citizens of the city realize just how great this is going to be for them, and it's going to put us way ahead of everybody else, and it's going to allow you. It's going to make your jobs easier because you're going to be able to spot people more quickly, be able to respond more quickly, and it's just a great program. And I'm so happy that we are on the leading edge, and we're here to help you. If you have troubles with the city, just feel free feel free to come up to me, because I have a tendency to bark a lot, and so I'm happy to do that. So I understand you have a new person that's been assigned to you in P&Z as your as the building department as your principal person.
From Public Works.
Yeah, for Public Works, right, which is going to be great. So anything we can do to help move this along, all of us up here are big supporters of you, so thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
you.
Thank you for your kind words and the support. It means a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, very well. The remaining item I have under city manager comments is in relationship to a commitment having been initiated via the June 18, 2024 City Commission meeting, in which the budget adjustment did include the formal allocation of $1.75 million necessary to engage the Sanford Golf Course Agreement. Pardon me, stumbled for a second. The Sanford Golf Course Agreement in terms of the design, 60% design. We talked a little bit about that aggregately back in July. And what's specifically being recommended, ladies and gentlemen, is a bid waiver, because we contemplate a two-phased approach agreement working with Sanford Golf Design for professional design and construction support services. The initial $1.75 million is actually anticipated to be a little bit less than $1.2 million. And the formal bid waiver process is necessary to get to that place for a number of reasons. And I've asked Director of Public Works, Ms. C. Barletto, who also works closely with Director of Parks and Recreation, Sam Metot, to facilitate why we are where we are. And again, the very specific transaction involves a formal bid waiver, which is to be assembled in time for the next meeting, part of your consent agenda. But our interest today is to honor the commitment to come back to you all today, August 5th, to offer you guidance and direction in terms of how we get to that place and what that actually looks like. But I'm really thankful that the initial transaction actually is coming out to be a little bit less than what we initially contemplated back in June, so we'll be able to make some adjustments in that regard. However, a future consideration involves a portion of the contract for project management and construction oversight services as we initiate the improvement program aggregately. Ms. Barletto, I think I've covered some of your highlights. However, there are a few points I think you wish to touch upon.
That was my presentation. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Great presentation, Missy.
You're welcome. Okay, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Missy Barletto, Director of Public Works. This microphone doesn't love me. So some of these slides are going to look familiar to you. I just ran through a lot of this presentation with you not very long ago, but for the benefit of the members of the public who weren't here for that presentation, I'm going to go back over some of the history and how we got to where we are. Our Delray Beach Municipal Golf Course has a very illustrious history. It was opened in 1926 with 9 holes that were designed by Donald Ross, who's a very famous golf course designer. In 1950, we added an additional 9 holes that were designed by Dick Wilson, also a very famous golf course designer, which gives us a very unique golf course that incorporates both of those two excellent design alternatives. In 1992, there was an 18 hole. The 19th hole is my favorite one. There was an 18-hole renovation completed by Carl Litton, and in 2002, the greens were rebuilt to USGA specifications. In 2005, there were some hurricane repairs done, and that's the last time we did any major work on our municipal golf course. So it's been a good long time. So in between that time, starting around 2015, we have invited a number of golf course experts from around the country to come onto our golf course and give us their view of what needs to happen there. The USGA Golf Course Consulting has visited multiple times over the years. Sanford Golf Course Design completed a master plan for the municipal golf course in 2016, and the National Golf Foundation did a capital plan for the golf course in 2017. All of these experts have agreed that there are a number of things that really need to happen, starting with a full-scale renovation that addresses irrigation, tees, fairways, bunkers, greens, cart paths, maintenance building facilities, and new maintenance equipment, as well as an increase to the annual operational resources for the golf course. So progress since all of those plans were created. In 2020, the city sent out a request for qualifications for firms to come in and do a design of the golf course renovation. In May of that year, Sanford Golf was selected by the selection committee to do design, bidding, and construction services. In 2020, that design began in October of 2020 at 60% complete. In May of 2021, the sitting commission at that time decided to take a pause and approach a different alternative looking at public-private partnerships, which was ultimately not chosen to move forward with by the commission. And in May of 2024, at your annual goal-setting meeting, you asked us to go back to Sanford Golf Design and re-enter into this contract agreement, which we have done. So the scope of the project with Sanford Golf Design is that we have gone through the original contract. We've marked out all of the things that have already been completed. We're looking at restoration of the south 9 holes that are the Donald Ross holes, as well as the north 9 holes that are the Dick Wilson holes. Creation of a new practice facility that includes a practice range, putting green, and a short game area. A new maintenance facility that includes, if we're able to arrange it, facility access from Congress Avenue on Congress Drive, which actually goes through a privately owned commerce center, and on-course restrooms. The cart bridge that is at the south end of the golf course must be replaced. We don't really have a lot of alternative there. And the vehicle bridge that's on the north end of the course across the canal does need some significant repairs at this time. The golf cart barn needs repairs, and we will be also at the same time analyzing the condition of the raw water mains that are from the raw water wells that are on the golf course to see if they need to be replaced at this time or not. If the condition of the pipes is good, then we will not proceed with replacing those pipes at this time. If there comes a time when they need to be replaced, then we can replace those pipes using a directional bore method underneath the golf course holes. We won't have to dig up the newly renovated golf course in order to make those repairs. So here's the best slide. We had initially come to you and said that the initial estimate from the golf course from Sanford Design was that it would cost $1.75 to get us back up to the full design. We've worked with them and gone through some pretty significant negotiations, and that cost has been lowered to $1,129,338, no cents. So we've lowered that cost by a little more than $550,000. And then we have also added into the contract a phase 2 that will be construction phase of $756,090 that will not be budgeted until we begin construction. So as we look at the construction for the golf course starting in 2026, then that's when that cost will come into play. The full agreement that covers all of this, I will bring that to you on August 19th.
Consent agenda to also include the formal bid waiver process I talked about during the introductory comments. So our interest this day is to honor the commitment for an August 5th update, to also offer an opportunity for a comprehensive update in terms of why we are where we are, so that the next exercise is straightforward. That's where we are, ladies and gentlemen, very consistent with direction and then some.
Great. Commissioner Long, any comments? Commissioner Marker?
I was glad to see you talked about those wells. That was new news to me. It may be new news. You might want to just tell everybody what those wells are and how important they are to us.
Oh, on the golf course property are a number of, currently we have, I think, 6 existing raw water wells that provide some of the drinking water for the city of Delray Beach. The Utilities Department is currently investigating installing some additional raw water wells, which they'll be able to take care of through a separate contract in the coming year. While we're finishing design on the golf course portion of it, they will be able to go and finish their construction of those raw water wells. So there will be no interference between the two projects.
That's great. That was new news to me as a new commissioner. I didn't realize we had all those wells out there. We're just going to have to be super careful when we're constructing that we don't disrupt it, which I know we will be. You'll be on top of it.
I'll try.
Thank you for the work that you've done here. This is great.
Thank you.
Commissioner Burns?
Yes, I just want to say thank you for the presentation and just looking forward to moving forward with this project.
Commissioner Casal?
No comments. Thank you very much.
Well, first of all, thank you very much. I know little birdie told me, because I see some people in the audience, that there may be public comment on this. I just want to make sure that, because we all kind of discussed it, that we do want to make sure that we have some input from the people that are using the course and things like that when this design process is going on. It's what's going to be important to the users, essentially. I mean, I can help with the aeration by just going out there and divoting the whole place with the way I play. I'm going to save us another $100,000 just on that.
So you won't be allowed to play on the restored course.
No. Well, that would be expected. But so seriously, I just want to make sure that as part of all this, that we do keep the,
Public outreach is built
correct.
into the contract,
Correct.
so there will be regular outreach to the community and to the golfing.
Because they've been waiting a long time, and I
They
want to
have.
make sure. So, but anyway, thank you very much for everything. Look forward to seeing the contract and the approval next week.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, we come to the,
With that, I yield. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
yeah, we come to the public comment part of our agenda. Anybody who wishes to comment on an agenda or non-agenda item, please come up to the podium, give your name and address for the record, and you will each have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Jay Alpern, 3130 Lowson Boulevard, Delray Beach. Good evening. I'm very happy to see the report that we just had. I'm looking forward to it. Public input is extremely important on this. You have to remember, it's not just the golfers that need to be consulted about this. We need the neighbors. All the neighborhoods around there are impacted by this. Preservationists, environmentalists, these all need to be thought of when this is designed. And I think they should be involved from the beginning to the end so that we don't have another disruption like we had 2 years ago. I noticed in the document that you've all had for a couple of weeks that it does have community engagement in it. Surprisingly, it's $82,000 worth. So I see that we are considering that. Again, I was happy to hear that we're not including the water main and the wells in the cost of the golf course. That is a separate issue and needs to be dealt with. And I think the golfers are very upset that that was considered as part of the improvements of the golf course. So seeing that separated means a lot to those who don't want to be accused of being an extra cost to the city. And I don't know if you've seen this before. The Delray Beach Historical Society did a tremendous job on a history of the golf course. It's 42 pages long.
This month, yeah.
And it's a good idea to look at. It's not really 42 pages, but in reality, most of it's pictures. But it's surprisingly how important this golf course has been to this community. And the last comment I have is that, has anybody ever considered colorizing some of the old photos of mayors on the wall?
Did you have any particular mayor involved, former Mayor Alpert?
Good evening, everybody. Ed McCall, 36 Palm Square. And I'm glad to see, I'm finally going to see some light of day for the golf course.
I pay attention to your emails.
I'm here to talk about, on June 18th, at the commission meeting, a resolution 126-24. It was a bid number 2024-028 for Pompey Park. And it was a 5-year contract for $513,000, $371 to maintain the baseball fields for 5 years. In light of that, I see the CRA has approved a huge amount of money to renovate Pompey Park, which is great. Have you thought about rescinding this bid for the maintenance of the baseball fields since the CRA, since this money is going to be renovating the whole park, not just the baseball fields? You could take that $513 and put it towards the golf course.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if you can do that or not. It was only 2 months ago. But maybe you can rescind that approval, since it would be kind of a non-issue.
Thank you very much. No, we'll look into
I
whether...
know you can't answer
No,
that
no,
now.
whether it's... I don't know whether there's an overlapping scope of work, and if there is, certainly we wouldn't want to duplicate
I mean,
the funds being
it
spent.
was 5 years just for the baseball fields, but the whole park's going to be renovated now.
Well, yeah, but yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much,
All right,
Mr.
thank you.
McCall.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Bob Cantwell, 1007 East Heritage Club Circle. And I'm here to talk about the Delray Beach Police Volunteer Patrol. What I'm here to ask is your help. We are expanding the patrol and trying to add another dozen volunteers. And so would like to get the word out that it is open, and we are soliciting people actively. and anything you can do to pass the word, we'd appreciate it. It's a really good, cost-effective extension to the police department. Just puts eyes and ears out on the street. We do have radio contact with dispatch, so I think it would be a really good thing if we could improve on that. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell.
Thank you.
Good evening, Rita Hall, 707 Southwest 6th Street. This is in regards to the millage change. I think you were talking about cutting the fire department and the police department. I don't think that's a good idea because increasing the response times will put our lives in jeopardy. I'm reading this, so put our lives in jeopardy. Longer than 6 minutes for a heart attack, 7 minutes for a stroke is not acceptable. By dispatching an engine and a rescue, I mean, you're not thinking about the fact that, that's wear and tear. You might be decreasing the millage, but, that's going to be wear and tear and gasoline to have the engine go out. And, so I don't think that's a good idea. I worked for Boynton Beach for over 19 years, and we had to do this not by choice, not by choice, but was forced to do it, and it increased response time, and I don't think that's a good idea. It's just not a good thing to do, for as far as I think we have in Delray, we have more elderly here than there was in Boynton. And I just think that's not it would be impacting the lives of the citizens, especially the elderly, as far as, as far as the response time. I just don't think it's a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Hi. Hello. Can you hear me?
You're going to have to move a little closer.
Oh, okay. All right. My name is Lori Ryder, and I'm here with a neighbor, Marty Goldberg. We are representing Rainbury Bay, a 55-year and older community located on Lake Ida Road, close to Congress Avenue. The community is in the city of Delray, and there are 901 homes with an HOA. We had to do the roads and contacted Ranger Construction Road Company. The assessment for paving the roads, including new curbs, bumpers, and paving, was a total of $2,109 for each home. We had a choice of paying the one sum of $2,109 to save $200, or paying $192 each month on the first of each month. Marty and I paid it in full. Everyone paid it in full. They paid most of the blocks, but not the circle, which is the main road and heavily traveled. Hence, this was started in November 2021. The circle remains with dangerous potholes which are tearing up our tires, ruining our alignments, and causing people to drive awkwardly to try and avoid these things. Bike riders are in danger of falling on roads that have holes and bumps everywhere. The roads are not safe. In conjunction with this, we have huge trees that need to be trimmed or removed, 8 at least, that were scheduled to be taken out, but HOL keeps saying they're waiting for permits. This has been going on for 2 to 3 years as well. If we have a storm, these trees will fall and can be dangerous to homes and block the circle that is the main road to the homes. We were told that Delray Beach is not letting us proceed with safety measures. When I go to other developments, these like Rainbury Bay, roads are paved and the job gets done. We are being victimized. We paid all the money that was due to fix the roads. Lastly, we want to know a date when the roads will be completed, and we expect money returned if roads are not completed. Why should we be charged for something we did not forget?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, we don't really respond to in public comment. But I should point out to you that the Rainbury Bay are private roads and not the responsibility of the city of Delray Beach.
George Law, 46 North Swinton.
So your responsibility would be with
sorry
your.
about that.
No, I'm going to answer your question. Part of your HOA is the city of Delray Beach is not responsible for the roads within your development. They're private roads. So I can't do anything about doing what you've asked.
They kept saying it's Delray Beach won't let us do this.
Well, I would suggest to you that is not an accurate statement, because as I said, they are not our roads, and we can't do it. I will, however, look into the aspect you talked about, the removal of the trees, in case whether or not that is something that Delray can do, and we'll look into that. Okay. I'm sorry.
George Long, 46 North Swinton. I came bearing compliments in case anybody got on your case tonight. You'd have, well, I think you're doing okay so far. Anyway, I wanted to point out you had a meeting called a town hall meeting under what this year's theme is: lead, learn, engage, and discover city leaders. And I went to this thing, and it wasn't boring as it sounds. It was really quite good. And some of the things that were very interesting to me. I didn't know that Delray Beach, for instance, was sort of an early adopter, sort of in this beach nourishment plan. Is that true? Yeah. Wow. And I've seen things happen there. I saw the revetment get built and fall down, and saw the giant sand pile, and they re-nourished. I'm glad it worked. Anyway, we have national recognition for that. And also, I learned that we were having a roundabout on Swinton Avenue. I never saw that day would come, up on the 22nd Street. I've been to that intersection many times. I think it'll work there. But also, one person in that meeting, when the residents were speaking up, came up with this absurd idea that you should put a roundabout at Swinton and Atlantic, there where you have all this mess there, and then sell tickets for people to see it, because it'd be such a one-ring circus. Also, the city has so much going on. The system, we go from hardscape infrastructure to art. I mean, it's just no end to it. But at the Green Market last weekend, the city had a lot of booths out there and a lot of good information there. I had Public Housing Authority. I had no idea how much they had going on here. Anyway, good work.
We're not just pretty faces up here. Well, I'm not
I'll be
anyway.
looking
The rest
for
of
favors someday.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners, City Manager, and City Attorney. I am Avis Benson, and I reside at 800 Greenswood Court. My husband, John Terry, and I have owned and operated Avalon Gallery in Delray Beach for the past 20 years, and we're still married. With 20 years of experience in the downtown area, I believe I know our downtown as well as, if not better than many. I am familiar with the people and the stories of the businesses within our downtown district, and I understand the significant role that the DDA plays in the success of our community. One of those stories is Big Al Steaks, a landmark in our downtown. It is a true mom and pop venture where Al, along with his wife and son, have built a successful career, a business. I am here today to express my strong support for Dr. Alan Castillo as member of the Downtown Development Authority Board. As a fellow merchant and longtime member of this community, I believe that Al's appointment to the board is not only well-deserved, but also crucial for the representation of our local businesses, particularly the small business sector. Some have expressed a desire to have new blood on the boards. I do understand that, and I respect and appreciate it. However, at this time, you have a DDA board that for the most part consists of still new members, fairly new members, some of whom are grappling to understand the mission of the DDA and their responsibilities as board members. As a seasoned member, Al will provide stability and continuity to the board. Currently, he is the only applicant who has the institutional knowledge and history of the workings of the DDA. Having had the privilege of sitting on this board among well-selected board members, I know the importance of choosing board members based on their merit. I have reviewed the candidates for tonight's appointment, and there is no doubt that Dr. Alan Costello should be your choice. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Any more public comment? Seeing none, public comment is closed. We now go to the approval of the consent agenda. As you know, we've had 4 items removed, so I
Motion to approve as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, we are now moving to 7AAA.
7AA, which was set 6B.
Yeah, formerly 6B, now 7AA. And then Jellen will be making, is that right?
No, I will. I mean, I pulled it, if you don't mind. And I want to forgive me, Todd, because I think you did text me and it went into my unknown senders and I did not respond, and I apologize. But frankly, Todd, you don't have to get up. I pulled this item because I feel that as a condition of your approval, 138 parking spaces from your garage were to be designated to the residents of Delray Beach. And you know, your project is going to be magnificent. It's a big project and a lot of approvals. There was a lot granted to you in benefits in exchange for those spaces. And the idea of closing the garage to that public parking, 138 spaces, 4 times a month for a year, equates to 6,624 vehicles that cannot park there. And I'm not happy with that. I don't want to approve that. I think when we make an arrangement and something is given to the residents in exchange for something, that you have to honor your agreement, because we always are forced to honor our agreement. And it's no disrespect. I'm fond of you and you've been good in communicating and even helpful with things in the city when I've spoken to you, but I feel very strongly that if you make an arrangement with the taxpayers and you get an approval, you need to honor that, and I don't appreciate coming back and looking for exceptions. And this is an exception. And that's what I want to say to my fellow commissioners.
Can I just clarify one thing?
Yes.
They're public spaces, so they're not dedicated to the residents.
But
anybody can use them.
We can direct the residents to use them.
You can
They're
direct
public.
anybody to use them because
Right.
they're public. It's not a private parking garage.
But when we've had applications come in front of us, you will agree that applicants come in front of us and they reference these spaces as potential parking spaces for visitors, residents. Right, you're saying they're not just residents, they're for visitors.
I'm just
and
saying
the
they're public spaces.
Right.
But at the time of the approval,
Mhm.
was there a discussion that there would be,
Yes.
the parking garage would be
They're
closed sometime?
guaranteed. No, that was never discussed.
Yes, it was.
No.
We discussed that. Did we not discuss that?
Not at the time of approval, Lynn. I don't believe that was
So at the time
discussed.
of approval, initially, the understanding was that it was going to be a garage that was managed by the city. In speaking to staff, that was not something that staff really wanted to undertake because it's a huge responsibility, and then there was going to be cost sharing, and it was just not something that staff wanted to undertake. That's when we came up with this agreement, which is essentially a private garage managed by a private entity with public spaces that are open to the public. I think
If you-
about 27 of them are for private use.
Did
but
we
the
not
rest-
go over this at the commission meeting last year? I could
This
have
says,
swore we
as a
we spoke
condition
about
of
it.
approval, the garage, developer agrees to grant an exclusive easement to the city to allow the public use of the 138 parking spaces.
I don't know at which point the closure came up. I can tell you that that was very negotiated because they really wanted more days, and we worked back and forth with the manager and myself and came up with the 4.
This was approved by the Historic Preservation Board, though. That conditional use was given at another board.
It was a waiver. So
Right,
they-
exactly.
a
So the
private-
commission didn't really have that discussion.
But this was negotiated with staff. It's not fair to make it seem like
I've
they
made my
pulled a fast
statement. You
one.
can have a different opinion, but we see this all the time where we are granting something to someone in exchange for something, and then then the conditions change. I'm
This was a conversation with staff, and it's something they came up with. And just to put this into context, this is next to another parking garage, right? Like, that's underutilized. So there's no lack of parking spaces there. And frankly, I think they're using it for overflow for Sunday Village, right? Which is an adaptive reuse of a historic property in our city. So in my opinion, we should be a little flexible on this element. I don't think it's a huge ask.
This isn't for overflow.
Okay,
And that
my
was part
mistake.
of the reason why I took it off the
I
last
mean-
time, because I had concerns. But
Right.
they've assured me that it is not for overflow.
What would it be closed for? Can we get any feedback from the
If
applicant?
they have special private events, they wouldn't want to be able to potentially close a garage and, use that parking garage for whatever event they're hosting.
I mean, they're literally building it next to an existing parking garage. So, in my opinion, if they want to use this for special events, I don't have an issue with that. Given it's like for private events, I'm sorry.
I would be interested in for my same position as I was with Atlantic Crossing. Usually if you're going to be doing that as a quid pro quo, say we want this approval, but in connection with that approval, we are offering you this. So I'm really just trying to go back to, because I'm not sure staff had the authority to add that feature. I'm not saying you didn't, but I don't know that you did. And I just want to kind of understand the history of it a little bit better.
The cover sheet says they received the
Todd,
approval as a condition.
I love your project.
It's not about the project, and it's no disrespect to you. It's because, as a commissioner, having people come up here after there's been an exchange made, a discussion about what the exchange includes, and then having that change, I just don't feel good about that. And it says right in the cover sheet, as a condition of approval.
Sure. First off, it's nice to see everyone. The history with this,
this isn't usual. We didn't ask you to come up, but I'm going to let you comment. But please put your name. And
sure.
I did.
Todd Benson, PEB Capital, developers of Sunday Village. Right. The concept behind the parking, and look, you've got to remember that this garage, after hours, it's going to be open to the public, right? And anyone that we have coming to our project, we're building 200,000 feet between multiple parcels, and there's going to be various events, and there's going to be we have ample parking, and in order to get this garage approved, this isn't to park our events at Sunday Village, which we're currently in for site modification for. We're going to have our own spaces, but there's going to be times that between everything going on at the property that there's going to be more visitors that are coming to Delray Beach, and there's still visitors that are so if they're, where else are they going to park? So in a lot of ways this is helpful, and we can give you many months notice when we're going to have these events, but I think it's to accommodate extra parking and visitors that we're having. So it's not like we're closing it down and using it for our private use. Like, they're still coming to Delray, so it's I think to ease the congestion when there's extra activity going on in the area a couple times a month. So,
but you're talking about during the day, not at night.
It'd be during.
Because you said
No,
these are going to be
the agreement calls for any time during the day, which includes a 24 hours day or night.
Right. That's why. That's.
So we can set hours, and we're happy to discuss with the commission here, what could work, but this is those 4 days, like, that's the history behind it, that there's going to be things going on in the area, and which we're going to know about in advance, and a couple times a month that we would have the ability to utilize that for more Sunday parking, but we will have enough parking to accommodate our use, our site plan. We have a lot of parking, so I mean that's we can quantify those hours, and we're not looking for this to be
I understand. Did you have any comments that you were going to make? Because I hate to do this to you, because I'd like to look at this a little more myself to see if we can refine the hours, because you're really talking about 10% of the time. 4 days a month times 12 is still, it's 10% of a year. So I'm just trying to understand better what hours you'll be closed, and that, because typically if it's on the weekend, that would be whether it's on Tuesday or Wednesday, I'm less bothered than if it's a Friday or a Saturday, frankly. So,
but the point is too, people are still coming to. So where else are they going to park? They're coming here anyway.
I'm not arguing with you. It may be fine. I'm just saying I want to look at it a little bit more from the perspective that the history of it, as opposed to just agreeing to it tonight. I'm not saying no. I just don't know enough to say yes.
Okay, just so I understand too, is it the day? Is it that it's 4 days? Is it that it could be, I'm just looking, because this, when we were negotiating this agreement, like this wasn't even something that we,
No, it was.
No, but we spoke about, we originally wanted more days.
Correct.
and then we got to the 4 days, and it just, and we didn't really, get more. I wanted 6 days at first, and then,
I think it was 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, at some point, public spaces really don't become public if they're out of picture.
Can I make a recommendation?
You may make a recommendation.
So in the agreement, it does indicate that if it's more than 4 days a month, that they can get city manager approval. You can make it no days a month, and they can receive city manager or city commission approval if they have it well in advance. But I will note, though, that the first time that this came before, and it wasn't this commission, it was the previous commission, that this was something that, the city was going to undertake as its responsibility. The reason why they needed a waiver was to the liner requirement. A public garage does not require a liner. That would decrease the amount of spaces that they could construct in building the parking garage. So they received that waiver in conjunction with making this look like a public garage, even though it's managed privately. And so, the discussion didn't really come up at that time. It came up during negotiations, and granted, it was something that was negotiated. If this commission's not happy with it, obviously you don't have to approve this tonight, but the agreement does call for manager's approval. So we can just say, if they're willing to agree, we're not gonna allow you to close it, by right 4 times a month. But if you wanted to seek permission from the city commission for a specific closure for some type of an event, you could come before the commission.
But as I said, I'm not fundamentally, if it's going to be like on a Wednesday or Tuesday or Wednesday, I'm less bothered.
Sure. The way that it's currently written, it can be every Saturday for the entire month.
I'm trying to keep public spaces available for the use of the public.
And also,
but understanding your concern, I'm sorry?
To keep consistent with the agreement that was made, if you read the cover sheet, it says it's a condition of approval. I mean, now the condition is changing, and I just am not.
The condition of approval was to create
I understand.
this covenant.
I'm saying that,
And
not
so-
literally.
Right.
Yeah,
so,
but at some point you take away the public aspect by saying
Correct.
it's not going to be open for a certain amount of days.
Yes.
I'm sure we're going to be able to figure something out.
Can I ask perhaps a naive question?
Sure.
Could we not just keep it public parking and it's first come, first served for whoever gets there first?
Well, after hours, so after 6 o'clock is when it becomes public parking. So that's what it is. And then what this concept is that a couple times a month we would have the ability. So if we knew that there was an event coming and we knew that there was congestion somewhere else within Sunday Village, that the visitors would be able to, or if we had valet parking there. But look, I'm fine. I think this helps everyone here because, again, our visitors are people that are coming to Delray anyway. They're going to find somewhere else to park. So, I'm happy to work with the city manager and to come up with if we need the spaces to pre-plan and we'll know this well in advance when these are and again, it's helping us as owners being able to park people, and it's helping the city so they have a place to park. So
those kinds of conditions aren't in this easement agreement, though. So if we're going to,
well, it is in there.
well,
So
they have to
it's
give a
just,
notice. I know they have to give notice.
So after, if you delete the portion of it that has the 4 days in any month, it does go on to say the developer may request the city manager to increase the number of days that the developer may close the parking garage facility, and the city manager may increase or refuse to increase the number of days in the city manager's sole and absolute discretion. So I could remove the language that
I think you
allows
should
them-
put in city commission,
We
and
can do
we
city
should come
commission.
in front of the commission in advance and make the request.
So we could delete developers
that's-
entitled to close a parking garage facility. We can delete that whole statement with the 4
Right.
days in 1 month. We can modify to make it city commission approval instead of
Yeah.
city manager, and it would be in your sole and absolute discretion. And it goes in here to talk about, time limitations when you can make the request and things like that, so that you're not being bombarded.
I know that.
Last minute. So you can approve it subject
What I was
to
referring
those.
to is the 4 days. It was just
Mhm.
there was no. We lose those 4 days.
Understood.
Now he may not even use those 4 days, but the reality is the contract would provide that he
Sure,
could.
it's in there. So we can approve it subject to those 2 changes. I would delete the 4 days per month, and instead of city manager approval, it would be city commission approval. You could do that. And again, that's if Mr. Benson's willing to agree.
Can you repeat that, please?
So we would delete the 4 days per month entitlement, so you wouldn't have that entitlement, and anytime that you wish to close a garage for one of your events, you would have to come before the city commission for approval. and it would be in their sole and absolute discretion.
Ask
That
one other
language is already in
question.
there.
Is that going to be paid parking for the visitors?
So
who's
the-
going to get the money when on the day
Because-
that it's closed? Would that mean that there be no charge?
Because they're
or the charge would
maintaining
come?
it, they're operating it.
Right.
This is completely a private garage. It's all of their revenue to, with the
Right.
understanding,
Okay.
and there's obligations in here to obviously maintain the garage in proper standards. That's already in there.
Thank you for the clarification. I'm just making sure. We have had instances, Mayor, where we actually were. I pick.
I didn't draft that.
Thank you. I know that. But I've expressed my concerns with this. And
Just so we're, this didn't happen overnight. So this was months of back and forth collaboration. And I think there is a certain time sensitivity to this because they are in the process of trying to get their building permits for the parking garage. So if you're comfortable with those two changes, I'm happy to make those changes and then bring them before the
So
mayor
the
for
change
his
just says
execution.
essentially if they want to close the garage
But they have
to
to
the
call-
visitors, they have to come
They
in
will
front
come
of us.
before the city commission for approval.
If I may, though, to close the garage, if there's a big wedding or we're doing something for the art event or there's something to come before the commission to close the garage, is there an easier way? I think the way that we
No.
had.
There isn't.
Finish your sentence.
Well, no, I think the concept that we had before, where we work with staff and the city manager, because this is more of an operational issue going forward. So if we were to say, okay, well, let's get rid of the 4 spaces. We just want to make this like a practical, and again, we might not use it all the time. That's why I think it's okay, but we just want to be in communication with the city because again, I think it helps everyone. To be able to plan accordingly when we know there's an event.
So if we take away the 4 spaces by right, why can't we give the city manager approval so they're a little more nimble and they can actually use that concept? Otherwise, I agree, it's not usable, and plus it's just procedural stuff for us to do up here. I mean, do we really want to have to make that decision? And it just seems like a draconian thing to make this applicant do.
If you take out the days, then it's basically open to any determination that the city manager wants to make. I'm not comfortable with this in general.
I
Now,
trust the
I'm trying
city
to find
manager's
some
judgment.
flexibility. That's not the issue. Isn't about trusting his judgment. The issue is I'm not comfortable with this, and I would be comfortable with it if you come in front of the city commission and then we know what's going on, because then we'll know, are you closing it 3 days out of the month? Which events are you selecting? Is it a private event of yours? Is it a city event? I just think in the beginning, because this is a trial and error, it's not unreasonable to say for the first year, let's have the review come in front of the commission, and then maybe thereafter.
Since things are going to be done in advance, as you say, I do think that it would be easy. And as for the commission getting involved, it would be a consent item, and it would be a way for us to see how you're operating it, and then we could then maybe adjust, down the road if we feel that it's, it's working to both our benefit.
Exactly.
So that's really all we're saying, and I don't believe it's going to be as taxing. It will be one more item on the consent agenda, but it's not going to be something we're going to be discussing unless somebody wants to pull it off the consent agenda. And my guess is you're not going to abuse it, so you won't be hearing from us except through the consent agenda. That would be.
Okay. Yeah. No. I hear you.
I think to start, maybe that's better, because as we all get familiar with how you're going to use the garage, because 130 spaces plus is like
130
worth a lot of money to the city in terms of us not having to do it. So
right, and I guess one more question is that when we do have an event, or if there's something going on, I just want to make sure that I understand so I can answer correctly, like what the concern is, like what we could be doing by parking or redirecting residents that we know are coming to Sunday Village to the parking.
Frankly, my concern is just what I said. When you make an agreement with the taxpayers and you offer something up, I feel unhappy when people come back and then they want something different. You were given something in exchange for something, and now you want to change what that is after the fact. And it's no disrespect.
That's not a fair assessment.
That's a 100% fair assessment.
Well,
it says
the aspect.
approval on the condition of.
It was negotiated with staff. This bait and switch narrative just isn't fair to the applicant.
It's
I'm
not
sorry.
a bait and switch
All right,
narrative.
anyway,
it was approved on condition of. That's what it says.
Mr. Benson,
Yeah.
you've heard what we're thinking. Are we okay with this to start with
I'm
this?
okay, but I just want to say that it wasn't with the bait and switch because
I'm agreeing. I know.
I would never imply that that's what you were doing.
This is your.
I'm
There's a
not.
lot. I am not suggesting that. The deal changed when the city didn't want to manage the place, so there was a lot of different aspects that changed.
Right, there's a
So
lot of
I'm-
aspects
Correct. So
that we
I'm
spoke
I'm
here,
I'm
but-
willing to give you
so,
that.
okay.
And
Mayor, just one more thing to add, because I know Commissioner Casella asked, the parking rates are going to be consistent with whatever's on Atlantic Avenue. So whatever the city charges on Atlantic Avenue, they're required to honor those prices as well.
Correct.
No predatory
I know.
enforcement.
Thank you.
Okay, so we just said that.
So it's going to be in paragraph 3C of the agreement. I'm going to delete the sentence, basically the first sentence that entitles you to have the facility closed 4 days in any 1 month. And I'm also going to amend the agreement. Instead of the city manager's sole discretion, it'll be the city commission's decision to approve or refuse. And I'm not going to put the semantics about it being on consent because I think we know. And then those are the two changes.
okay, but I mean, I'm just saying at some point we may want to get rid of that as well. But
And,
Right.
and if it happens very scarce and it comes before you can direct me to amend this covenant and we can do that. It's very simple.
that's fine. Okay.
But I do have to put a maximum or minimum, maximum, excuse me, in there. We're not going to be here forever. Do you have to say, should we put no more than so many times a month or so many times a year?
I don't know that we need to do that because it's going to be.
It's within your sole and absolute
It's
discretion.
within our sole discretion for the
So
next
if
3
you-
years,
if you
and
think
then
they're
after that,
abusing
it's
it,
someone else's
and you're
discretion.
here in 25 years, you can change it.
Okay, got it, Carney.
I'll be dead.
Thank you. Good point, Mayor.
Thank
Carney.
you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we need a motion.
Motion to approve
What?
as amended.
Why don't you make the motion?
Motion to approve as amended.
It's stated on the record.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Deputy Vice Mayor Long,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cassell,
Yes, thank
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
Mayor Carney,
Yes.
Commissioner Marker.
Yes.
Great. Okay, we're now at 7BB, which is the resolution, which is with 6D, which is now 7BB. You pulled this for a reason.
I did. I pulled this to say thank you to Mr. Moore because we were, on our agenda was an approval to pull money from the taxpayers' piggy bank, the reserves. We directed you to please go back and locate that money elsewhere, and you did so. So I just want to say thank you for doing that. And, to anyone who was considering otherwise, this was the right thing to do, Mr. Moore, and I appreciate that you did that. And I want the taxpayers to know that we are looking out for their finances.
Okay, so Lynn, if you could read the resolution
ma'am.
so we can make a motion to approve.
She doesn't, I can just make a motion to approve Resolution 157-24.
Sure you can. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Fine, great. All right, now we have Resolution -16324, which you also,
I did. That's the emergency management grant, and I
Yeah.
pulled that because on that agenda, the last line say there was no payment request submitted. So the confusion about this and the question to you is, this is talking about money from a storm in 2020.
Precisely.
Right, and you met with individuals from the government in 2021. I'm sorry, I'm pulling up the agenda sheet right now. And in your meeting in 2021, I think it was May, am I mistaken, of when you met? August of 2021, it said no payment request has been submitted as of this date. There will be a total of 1 project submitted. And in that calendar year, you had a budget revenue amount of $585,000 under budget for revenue FEMA SCBA. So I guess my question is, why, if this happened in 2020 and we had a meeting in 2021, are we seeing this now?
Very good question, Vice Mayor. So FEMA is characteristically slow. I've been doing hurricanes since Andrew back in the 90s. And so what happened, for instance, Wilma took place in 2005. Quite a bit of municipalities are still fighting with the feds for reimbursement. And so FEMA, they typically execute the grant agreement well. after the event has occurred. And this was a one-day event. It did not require full mobilization. However, the State Division of Emergency Management normally gives the subrecipient, which is what we are deemed as, the agreement well after the fact. That's just how they operate. We do have one major open project totaling $104,000, for which we've already expended funds, and we're waiting reimbursement. This is just formalizing.
Right, but you're saying they're slow, but it looks like we were slow because
No, they control
you
the
met in
process.
2021. How come we're just now approving this now?
Yes,
And they
as
said
I've
there were
said,
no open projects.
They control the process.
Okay.
We have several disasters for which we're awaiting reimbursement. It's a yes, we're waiting for reimbursement for quite a few more. Could enumerate them to you.
No, that's okay. So quick question.
So that's how
when does
FEMA
that
works.
show up as a revenue in our budget? When you receive the money?
It does. And kind of retrogressing with respect to the budget amendment that you just approved, we receive reimbursement for some other disasters, but typically FEMA is characteristically slow.
Right.
Entities are still in waiting for their reimbursement. For Wilma, they're still going back and forth with FEMA. That's how the process works.
Okay,
Some
thank you.
even 10 years hence
Okay.
have not been reimbursed.
Thank you. Motion to approve, and you should probably stay because the next one is probably for you as well.
I beg your pardon?
I said motion to approve, and I asked him to please stay
Second.
because I think the next item is for him as well.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's the resolution is adopted. Okay, 7DD.
Which is 6K, that is the approval of the amendment of the 5th RFP with Sunshine Cleaning Systems. And this concerns me because some of those amendments were simply change of name. Others were additional fees being charged during the contract period. But most concerning on the agenda report, it looks like this contract was, are we in contract with them now? Because it looks like the contract became invalid and we didn't know it based on this cover sheet. It says that the vendor requested to amend the pricing schedule to comply with the state's July 2nd, 24, the city retroactively renewed the agreement for one final year beginning April 7th. The contract was originally thought to be due in June.
The original contract was executed March 13, 2020 for 3-year periods with 2 one-year renewal. So the contract effectively is through 2025.
But it says we retroactively agreed.
That's just the option for renewal.
Okay.
We notified them effectively that we wanted to continue our contractual arrangement with them.
Okay, but what does it mean when you say the contract was originally thought to be due for renewal by June 28th? However, it was discovered that the agreement date was April 7th.
Vice Mayor, I personally went back and looked, and the legal review checklist stated that the contract commenced April 7th, 2020. I'm not sure whose original thought that was, but...
Right. When I see things like this, it gets me concerned because our towing contract was 3 years. We were out of contract with the towing contract.
Yeah, this one we are within the confines of the contract, and the wording could have been a bit better, but we have a 3-year original term with 2 one-year renewal options.
Right, but should we be contemplating going out on an RFP on this because they keep on increasing our fees and we're just allowing this contract to keep renewing?
I'm going to defer to the departmental.
Thank you. Thank you, Missy.
So the small amount of fee increase that you see here is to bring the company in compliance with minimum
with the
wage.
wages. I saw that. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's just a small amount. We are preparing to go back out to the market to do a new RFQ for this project.
Thank you.
At some point during the renewal process, the purchasing department put in a renewal date of June, and that's why it says retroactive, that we discovered that because the renewal date should have been for April, which left us a few
And not
months
to
in
be
there.
disrespectful, but these are the kind of things we're seeing consistently, which is just, I don't want to call them sloppy mistakes. I don't know what to call them, but we need to start cleaning up department to
Vice Mayor,
department.
We've had some, we've had some.
Mr. Dunkley,
turnover.
yes, ma'am, understood, got it. And so we will look forward to executing improvements across the board.
Okay, I think what I was saying as politely as I possibly can is that we see mistakes, and I'm not referring directly to your department, often and enough that we need to look at what's going on. Now, when you came here, we had a robust procurement department that was running exceptionally well. And we changed the direction of how the city was working, and we moved the procurement department into finance. And since then, I can say that it has not been functioning. And I'm not attributing that to the finance department. I'm saying that there were bottlenecking issues off the bat. There were problems with contracts. We have contracts. By law, we're required to have contracts. And we're 3 years without a towing contract.
If I may, Vice Mayor, if I may, just to be.
One
frank,
moment, because I'm actually speaking
okay.
to Mr. Moore as the director,
Okay.
if you don't mind. I feel that you have a new commission up here, and we have high expectations. I would like for us to start looking at how our departments can run better and more efficiently for our taxpayers. That's all I'm saying. I appreciate you. I think you do a good job. This has nothing to do with this issue. I just think we see issues a lot, and I would like to see some corrective action.
Can we, Vice Mayor, my goal is the same
Done.
as city manager.
Can you make a motion to approve that?
Motion to approve. Thank you.
That is my goal as city manager, so yes, ma'am.
Thank
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Good.
Thank you, Mr. Dunkley.
Moving now to 7A. Thank you very much, Hugh and Missy. Offsite parking agreement for 324 Northeast 3rd Avenue. By way of some disclosure, I represented this company when they first started and first came into Delray. I haven't been paid by them in a long time, but I initially advised them that they were going to need parking agreements and things such as that. So, but I have had nothing to do with the drafting of the parking agreements or anything such as that. So I just want you, that's my history with this.
Thank you for disclosing that.
Good evening, Mayor,
Mr. Carbone.
Commissioners. My name is Louis Carbone, 90 Southeast 4th Avenue, Delray Beach. I'm here tonight on behalf of the owners of the property, of the two properties that are subject of this agreement, 324 Lofts and Del Park LLC, and its principal, Josh Abrams. First of all, want to give you the location of the property, 324 Northeast 3rd Avenue, south of Atlantic, in the Railroad Corridor District of the CBD. This is the subject property. Oop. Back one. Okay. The address, 324 Northeast 3rd Avenue. It's a 4-story mixed-use building. It consists of a restaurant, some offices, a yoga studio, and a roof deck. Total of 14,600 square feet. It was approved by the city in 2018 and completed in 2023. Some of the site data here is that the zoning is CBD RC in the Railroad Corridor District. Again, that comes up later. Total square foot again is 14,618 square feet. So let's talk about the parking for the building and the existing use. Again, 4 stories. The first floor is a restaurant, 3,486 square feet, and it has 21 required spaces for the restaurant. Second, third, and fourth floors are office and a yoga studio. No parking requirements for those pieces because when this was approved, there wasn't a requirement for parking for that type of use. How does the 21 parking spaces lay out? They were provided in 2 on site, 3 by an off-site parking agreement done in 2017 for across the street at 325 Northeast 3rd. And 16 spaces were provided by an off-site parking agreement at the Bednar's Market, right next to the Bednar's Market. So that's how they arrived at the 21 initial spaces for the restaurant or for the building as required. Those agreements were done back in 2017, and they're still in existence today. What we're coming here tonight for is the restaurant wants to expand to the rooftop. The rooftop is shown here, 2,006 square feet of space. So what will happen here is the restaurant wants to utilize the roof to expand its usage for restaurant purposes. There's a further layout. Outdoor dining is permitted by text amendment. However, if it's restaurant use, we need to provide parking. Won't go into all the LDRs on this. I think you've seen this, but again, parking must be provided when the principal use is located on the rooftop. The principal use is a restaurant, so we're expanding to the rooftop. The number of spaces that are required for the rooftop is 12 spaces. And I'll get into the calculations next. If the rooftop agreement is approved, the 12 spaces would be allocated to the building, which would give the building a total of 33 required spaces. Okay, so we're providing the 12 off-site parking spaces directly across the street, about 40 feet away, at 325 Northeast 3rd. This is a mixed-use building, cafe and restaurant on the first floor, 2 residential apartments above, and a automated parking garage, first one in the city, 52 spaces. This building was approved by the city in 2019 and has been recently completed earlier this year, 2024. Again, showing you that's directly across the street, which meets the requirements for the off-site parking agreement because it's closer than, it's 40 feet. The requirement, it has to be within 750 feet. Again, here's a picture of the building. Here's a picture of the layout of the parking within the building, within the mechanical garage. Okay, now for 325, what's going to happen when we take the 12 spaces? The building is, I won't go through all these calculations, but the total parking required for 325 Northeast 3rd was 11 spaces, broken up for the restaurant and the residential pieces. And there's total parking in the parking garage of 52 spaces, which leaves a surplus of 38 spaces. If we apply the 12 spaces that we need for 324, it leaves a surplus of 26 spaces. So we're not doing anything to this property that would put it out of compliance with parking, and that's the calculation how we came up with 26 surplus spaces. And we're asking the City Commission to approve the off-site parking agreement that was presented and reviewed by the City Attorney. If you have any questions, I'm available.
Stand by. Ms. Chinotis.
So I don't have a lot to add. I have a presentation, but I mean, ultimately the requirements in the code are that if you have off-site parking, it's within 750 feet. This is directly across the street. There's a pedestrian passageway. The cars actually load from the rear, but in Mr. Carbone's image, you could see that. The other thing is that this parking resource is an automated garage, which is the first one in the city that we've had. So we did ask for a demonstration prior to this meeting to make sure that it actually works.
Did it work?
It does work. It is also surprisingly quiet.
Well, they have it in other places. I mean,
yeah, we were
very impressed.
Yes, Ms. Challen and I went and watched the process. So a couple of things. Kama, if you can pull my presentation up. The only thing that is a detail, just to put on the record, we did discuss it with the property owner and their property managers, but the automated garages require an attendant be present. And that's not it, but the other one. So at any rate, that's the only issue, is that if this restaurant is going to rely on 12 spaces across the street, they need to be accessible. And for an automated parking system to be accessible, there needs to be an attendant there who knows how to run it, because you have to fold the mirrors in and you back it up into the spot and you program in your piece. So this is the cut through. So you can see that even if you queue from the back, you're just walking directly across the street if you there. So this is the rule that I was looking for that I couldn't recall. An attendant must be on site during all hours of operation, anytime the parking garage is accessible for parking purposes by the public. So this is, we have lots of places that rely on a valet. This really isn't any different. It just, the complexity of the machine probably requires it. So that's the only thing that I wanted to point out and put on the record. They're perfectly amenable to that. I mean, I don't think this was an inexpensive endeavor, and we certainly don't want, anyone to move into it. And then there's also, I guess, Mr. Abrams was telling us, that there's sort of waivers and things they would want people to sign. But they have more than enough parking there. It works. It was surprisingly quiet. I think the largest sound was the gate actually closing so that you were out of it. So I think it's an interesting thing for, honestly, the future of trying to condense a lot of parking into urban areas. So hopefully it'll be successful. And the agreement before you has provisions in the event the garage breaks, giving them sort of a window of time for repairs. And then ultimately, if it takes longer than that, they would either need to close the rooftop for seating or find some other parking within the area. That's it.
You said the rooftop would have to cease operations?
Well, the rooftop is actually outdoor dining for the restaurant that's on the ground floor. It's not an actual restaurant up there.
Right.
So it requires 12 spaces to support that additional customer load. And so should the machine not be working for more than, I think it's 10 days?
10 business days.
Then, either stop seating people until you fix it or else find other parking within 750 feet. Or other ways to rectify it. So, but even with these 12 spaces, there's still 26 extra spaces in the garage. So they have more than enough.
So you're satisfied that the parking requirements have been met fully?
Yes, I'm satisfied that the machine works and it should work.
Okay. Are there any rebuttal or
No,
any
I'm
comments or anything? So it's not a public hearing.
This is not a public hearing.
Okay. To the commission, any?
Sorry, I'm going to quick. We had discussed this arrangement, and we talked about the termination clause. I see it in there. It's item 7, I believe. But I wanted to I didn't see anything in there about the malfunction of the equipment.
It's in paragraph 5 under enforcement.
Okay.
And it says, in the event the easement area becomes inoperable for more than 10 business days, restaurant functions shall be limited to the first story until temporary replacement parking is secured in a form acceptable to the city.
Perfect. And then the other thing that we talked about was rental spaces. You said some of the spaces were going to potentially be used for rent, but that's not permitted.
Well, there's access, right? So
Yeah.
when we met with Mr. Abrams last week, he indicated that he would mark some of the spaces so that it would be clear which ones would be subject to this. But there's access in there, so he is able to privately rent out some of them, so long as the 12 that are necessary for this agreement always become
Are available.
And the other
Okay.
3.
Thank you so much.
And that, just for the record, that requires a ZCU for that business.
So could you say that again? I'm sorry.
Yes, that actually requires a zoning approval. It's administrative, but that way we can track the leased spaces that are a business of leasing spaces, the spaces that serve the restaurant, and the spaces that serve the development on the property.
So it's
with
clear.
the
Very
garage.
good. Thank you very much.
I'm just curious, the restaurant's fine with that clause, that they could be shut down if it's not?
They're aware of it, yes.
They're aware of the clause?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else from the commission?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? It is approved.
Thank you.
Nomination for the Board of Adjustment. There will be 2 positions appointed this evening. Commissioner Burns has the first.
Oh, Mayor, I'm sorry. Before we start with the board appointments, I just wanted to put this out there. Many of our boards do have professional requirements, and some of those are lacking in some of the boards. As we go through it, I can tell you how many need to be a professional person that gets appointed to the board.
Okay.
But we do need to be mindful of it.
And we should a couple of things, and I'm going to address this to the clerk as well. But in the agendas we have, and we know we have 2 appointments. I'd like in the future, we have that in the backup information, we have the information, but I think we should also put on the agenda that's readily available to people who the people making the appointments are. Like in this case, there are 2 appointments, do the rotation, it's going to be Carney and Burns or whoever. Just so if we could add that paragraph to our agendas, that would be helpful. Secondly, we should kind of know that before we go through the selection process of which.
It's in there.
It's all there.
It's in there. It's on the agenda cover memo. I just wanted to.
Okay, all right.
What we don't tell you, which we probably should do a better job, is how many of the professional appointments are required by the code.
That's what I was getting at.
I agree, though, with the mayor that if it, in the actual agenda itself, if it showed who was making the appointments, if nothing else, it would make it easier for the applicants too. Because I get emails all the time from applicants who don't know if I'm the one making the appointment or not, because they don't know to look in the backup. It just might make it a little bit easier.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean? Just
right, it's on the agenda cover memo, but
Right,
you're
I'm
saying actually
just put it on the agenda itself.
So people, when they
Yeah.
look at because when you go online and you look at the agenda, that's what everyone, going to the backup is
Understood. That's fair.
It just makes it easier for the applicants to know who to call.
Sure.
So, anyway, with that, we finished? Commissioner Burns.
This is for the Board of Adjustments, correct?
The Board of Adjustment.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Mr. John DeLacio.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The next one is mine. I would like to appoint Mark Ronald.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving right along. Nominations for the Planning and Zoning Board.
So on this one, if all 3 appointments can come from the professional, that would satisfy the code.
Okay.
Because it requires at least 5 members of the board to be filled with either the architect, landscape, it has all the professions on there. So under Exhibit A, it is split up, so it lets you know who meets those professional qualifications. But because there's only 3 appointments, and at this point, there would only be 2 qualified on the board, which is Ms. Mollica and Mr. Brown. All 3 appointments to be in compliance with our code should come from the professional.
May I ask for a question that's something we might want to consider? I want to appoint Mr. Snyder. He's here tonight. He's already served. So while he may have stepped onto the board as a non-professional, his service time should allow him some leniency. You also have Mitch Katz on here. He was a former commissioner. If he's not qualified to sit on the board, who is? So I would like to appoint Mr. Snyder for this board because he's already served. He has some experience. It's a relatively new board. I've been watching the meetings, and I think I would like somebody on there with some experience.
Do you have a comment? Is that?
I mean, the code is written that way for a reason. It does say must, which is like a shall. So typically you should, meet those professional qualifications because there are 2 board members that are considered at large. They don't meet those qualifications. If we want to maintain compliance with our code, we should follow it, right? So,
I guess my question, though, is I'm wondering if we should expand those definitions. I don't want to change our code because I think the professional requirements are good. I want people on there who have some knowledge and understanding. The LDRs and the comp plan they're complicated. But if we are saying somebody who served for a period of time, they should then find themselves as qualified regardless of what their professional vocation is under some category, perhaps. And also a former commissioner would probably be the most qualified. So can we look to amend those rules? I'm not sure.
There is an out. There's a little valve in there that does say that, even though we have a must, the appointing body shall endeavor to appoint as many of the required disciplines as possible to the board. The reason why we put that language in there is because we've had dry periods where we don't get the qualified applicants, and so we needed to have something in there.
So I'm going to invoke that clause, and I'm going to nominate Mr. Snyder.
have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Commissioner Burns.
I'm going to nominate Mr. Deirdre Strawn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It is passed. All right, mine, I'm going to appoint Mitch Katz.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay, 4-1. All right, next one is nomination for the Historic Preservation Board. We
Okay,
have
on this one, I'm really gonna ask that you appoint with the qualified members. On this one, we need, I think it tells you on the agenda how many, we need 3. The reason why we need this is when we apply for those grants and
Right.
things like that, you have to have those qualifications in there. So I
Okay, so-
think 3 of the people under qualifications should be appointed to this board.
So we have 4 appointments to make here. I have the first, then Commissioner Markert, then Commissioner Long, then Commissioner Casal. I'm looking here at this sheet that you have given us. So you need how many qualified that are, how many?
3.
You need 3 of the 4.
Correct.
So you're saying that,
Or you could appoint all 4, but, at a minimum, you need 3.
I have a question, if I may. Mr. Miller, again, he's on the Historical Society, and he's served this board, probably one of the longest-serving individuals on this board. He doesn't qualify, you're saying?
Not according to this is from the Florida State Statute guidelines of the types of professional expertise that you need on these boards. And this one, and Anthea can explain it to you probably better than I can, but this goes to our ability to obtain the matching grants that you always hear us talking about for historic preservation.
yep.
But we can appoint one that's not qualified, you're
Yes.
saying? Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay, well, I have the first appointment,
Okay,
and I am going to appoint John Miller. So I'm going to take the one out of your all's hands.
there you go.
I need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's fine. Okay. Commissioner Markert.
Is Claudia Willis qualified?
Yes. Yes, she is.
She's non-qualified applicant labor who own
Oh,
property.
she's under Realtor. There's those, oh my gosh, that's, wow.
So Claudia Willis is not qualified?
Correct. The professions that are listed are architect, landscape architect, civil engineer, general contractor,
No,
historian,
okay,
preservationist, land planner, archaeologist, cultural anthropologist, museum curator, or conservationist.
Okay. So Commissioner Markert, you have 4 names there of people who are qualified.
Is Sarah Brown is a librarian, does that meet?
No.
Sarah is not on the list. You have Benjamin Baffer, who's a general contractor.
Yep.
Chris Cabezas, who's an architect. Vlad, I call him Vlad, who's an architect. And Carol Perez, who is a landscape architect. Those are your 4 that are qualified.
Okay. I nominate Carol Perez.
Took mine.
Second.
Huh?
I'll second.
Did I?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's all right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Sorry,
opposed?
That's all right.
Okay, so we've got that.
I am going to defer because that was mine, so I'll defer to the next
That would
one.
have been mine too.
Sorry.
I said, it's all right. So
Good on.
Mr. Long is deferring, okay? So now we're left with Commissioner Casal.
So I'm picking from the qualified list. I will have Mr. Cabezas. He served before.
Yes, Commissioner Cabezas, yes.
Yes.
Do we need a second? Yes?
Second.
All in favor?
Thank
Aye.
you.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Fine. So we have those with Commissioner Long deferring. Okay. We now have nomination for appointment to the Site Plan Review and Appearance Board. That will first be Commissioner Casal. 3 appointments, Commissioner Casal, Commissioner Burns, and Tom Carnegie.
Okay, my 2 picks have just been appointed to other boards, so I may need to defer this, if you don't mind. But can I just quickly, can I go onto the list and see? Are there requirements on this one as well, Attorney?
Ideally 2 from this one, from the qualified list.
You said what?
I'm going to quick look at the qualified list.
need-
Ideally 2 out of the 3 would come from the
2 out of the
qualified.
3 from the qualified list, okay.
Okay, I'm going to, I'm going to pick Miss Morrison.
We have a second?
Second.
Second. that
All
was
in
mine.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Fine. It's done. All right, so we got, now Commissioner Burns.
Well, that was my nominee. And where's my second? Carol Perez has already been
Yes.
appointed, right?
Yep.
That was my number 2. Winsky, Villanox.
Okay. That's your
Second.
nomination?
Yes.
Okay, need a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Fine. I am going to defer as well because Christina was my choice there, so I got to figure out what we're going to do there. So, okay. And I think we're done with our appointments, right? Oh, no. No. We have an appointment to the Downtown Development Authority. What a surprise.
So we have, I want to ask the city attorney, so we have 3 candidates that are on this list. Are they all qualified?
Yes, I believe I sent a memorandum explaining to you all of their qualifications.
You did. I nominate Al Castillo.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Fine. Al Sub, you were all set there with your Philly cheesecake, which we love. Anyway. We now go into public hearings. Is there, I need to do an announcement here with the public
No,
hearing. right?
none of them are quasi-judicial.
I'm sorry?
There's no quasi-judicial
No
hearings today.
quasi-judicial.
Do you want me to read
So it's just
ordinance
a public hearing,
2524?
They need to be sworn, though, right?
Nope.
No?
No.
Okay, public hearing, there we go.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 32, Departments, Boards, and Commissions by amending Section 32.26, Composition Appointment Terms, to reduce the number of the Education Board members from 13 members to 7 regular members, by amending Section 32.28, Qualifications of Members, to update the qualifications by requiring board members to be either a parent or educator from each of the Delray Beach Public Schools, by amending Section 32.29, Duties and Responsibilities, to update the purpose of the board, providing a savings clause, general repealer clause, and an effective date. And this is second reading, public hearing.
Great. Are there,
Oh. I don't think there's a
this
presentation.
is a first reading, so there's.
No, second.
This is the
Second
second.
reading.
So these are the changes that were directed from the commission to come up with a new mission
Oh,
and
yes,
a new
it's the second reading,
composition.
May I, Mayor?
You may.
I was just, in light of our Ed Board discussion that we're going to be having, and in light of upcoming considerations, I was talking to our attorney. There was some of the things on this that I had questions about, and she explained it perfectly, and it makes good sense. However, having said that, I'm wondering if we should just put this off till after we have our meeting with the school administrators, the Ed Board, and all the individuals that plan on coming, that so we can then figure out what the makeup of this should look like. I am completely understanding the purpose of moving forward in this. I'm a little concerned. People have asked if will teachers step out and be able to be a voice to move forward if they're working in the school system, and it's a good question. Someone else said this is more like a SAC, a school advisory council. I don't think that's what we want to be, but I don't really know the direction we're going until after we have that meeting. And I was wondering, do we have to make this determination? Can we put this off till after the workshop that we have?
I don't mind putting it on. I'm not going to change my view on it because I do think that, streamlining the thing to 7 and having them all be educators is probably.
Well, it's not all educators. It's educators and parents. But
Educators,
the
right, but I'm
question
saying-
is, reasonably so, are the educators going to be able to go and advocate for the students against their employers in promoting whatever we opt for however we're moving forward? We don't even know how we're moving forward. Are we looking to consolidate schools? Are we looking to incorporate choice programs into the school that doesn't have any? What is our goal? I don't even know what that is. So how do I formulate a board not knowing what the outcome we want is.
Okay, comments, commissioners? I mean, you're the school board guy, so, well, you're the,
You were in the principal's office the most.
Yeah, that's true. Listen, I'd be comfortable approving this tonight, as I feel like we've talked about it a lot, but I have no issue tabling this till after the workshop, frankly.
Thank you.
That could inform our discussion further if there are any additional tweaks we wanted to make based on that discussion. I don't think we'll have any, but, I don't have an issue with it, frankly. So it's really up to you guys.
then you want to do a motion to table?
Yes, motion to table to,
Well, can we wait?
do we need it?
So we had to pay to advertise this, so I don't know when that workshop is, but I would ask to postpone it to a date certain,
I have
so
a
that we don't have to
That's
pay
fine,
to
that's fine.
re-advertise
Let's
it.
postpone it to a date certain. Do you know
Okay,
what
would
that
that
date
be
would
September?
Of course, I have that information, ladies and gentlemen. So the workshop, the aforementioned workshop with school district leadership will take place Monday, August 19th. The
Right.
following regular city commission meeting will take place Tuesday, September 3rd. So the recommended date
Okay.
certain would be Tuesday, September 3rd, 2024.
No, Lynn is saying no.
I think it should be October 1st. Those are budget hearings. And
Okay.
I don't,
Okay, well.
So
we
moved.
need time to, take the direction that comes from that workshop and compose it into an ordinance for you.
That's fine.
So I
Tuesday,
would say
October 1.
1st.
Thank you, so moved.
Make a motion?
I did, I said so
To a
moved.
date certain, okay, second.
Do you want me to make a full motion?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it
I
is
think we need
postponed till
to-
October 1, date certain.
Okay,
Sorry?
okay, that's fine.
Well, that's what you suggested.
I did, but I would have made it a little more specific.
Then,
Motion to postpone to date certain October 1.
At 6 p.m.
Pardon me?
Second.
Thank
At
you.
6 p.m.
at 6 PM.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Boy, getting ordinance through is crazy. Okay, 9A, would you like to read the ordinance?
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Delray Beach, Chapter 53, Sanitary Sewers, Section 53.004, abbreviations, definitions to adopt definitions for hazardous waste pharmaceuticals, healthcare facility, pharmaceutical, and reverse distributor, and to correct numbering. Amending Section 53.051, prohibited discharges to sewers to add hazardous waste pharmaceuticals to the list of substances prohibited from being introduced to the city's treatment works, providing a conflicts clause, providing a severability clause, authority to codify, and providing an effective date. This is first reading.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. 9B,
Ordinance 24-24, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Delray Beach, Chapter 53, Sanitary Sewer, Section 53.058, reserved, to enact a new Section 53.058, dental facilities that remove or replace amalgam fillings, providing for local implementation of the effluent limitations guidelines and standards for dental category adopted by the state of Florida, providing a conflicts clause, providing a severability clause, authority to codify, and providing an effective date. And this is first reading.
Motion to approve.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Okay, comments and inquiries on non-agenda items. Mr. City Manager.
I yield at this time. Thank you.
Oh, good. Miss City Attorney,
I just have one quick item.
in 36 parts, or?
No, just really quick. I just want to say that approval for the Sunday parking garage, I went back through my emails, and that discussion first started August of 2022. So I think it's fair to say that, when we're negotiating these things, number one, we had a different commission, and, we were also working with the manager as well. So, I don't think that staff took any license in coming up with these terms. I think this is what we were given based on previous direction from a previous commission as well as the manager. So I just want to make that clear because, I think especially my staff, we're very cognizant of our limitations, and we would never abuse that and bring something before you that at least one other person didn't feel comfortable with, right? So I just wanted to make that clear on the record.
I want to apologize if that was the message that I gave, because I absolutely don't think that your staff would ever go do anything without some direction.
Sure. Thank you. That's it.
All right, comments by the City Commission. Mr. Marker.
I have one.
Yes.
I would like to receive consensus from my colleagues on the dais to allow Laura Simon from the DDA to come before us at our next meeting with her presentation on the rebranding of Old School Square. As you know, several meetings ago, there was consensus to remove this responsibility from the ILA with the DDA Before we do that, I would like for us to hear the presentation as a regularly scheduled agenda item so that we can determine if there is a compromise we can reach before all the taxpayer money spent on the rebranding exercise is simply thrown away. I spent a large part of my career as the chief marketing officer for Office Depot and chief marketing officer for Nielsen. Rebranding exercises are really important, and some great work was done. I reviewed it with Laura and her team last week. I think we owe it to her to spend a little bit of time for all of us to see it. Rebranding exercises are always deeply personal. They're always very subjective, but some really great work was done, and I think this team needs to review it.
Okay. Is there consensus up here for that?
Sure.
Yes? Absolutely, okay. We'll make that agenda item.
That would be for the August 19th meeting. That's 2 weeks from today.
Okay. Suit your calendar? Okay. Okay. Commissioner Burns?
I just have one thing. I wanted to find out what the status of the Frog Alley designation is. Where are we on that?
We'll offer an update during the August 19th meeting.
Okay. And the opioid committee as well?
That will be forthcoming August 19th as well. We'll be finalizing the agenda transmittal based on our discussion to that effect during the previous city commission meeting. We've offered the update, so a cogent, definitive policy recommendation will be offered as part of the August 19th meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Casal?
So quick congratulations to the interns. We had our intern luncheon, and I want to just thank all the staff that participated in making that experience for the interns both memorable and educational. I also want to thank some community heroes that helped the homeless, Shirley Orazo, Ezra Krieg, and of course our very own Ariana Ciencio, because sometimes they don't get the recognition for all the hard work, and I'm just honored to serve here in Delray, and especially with working side by side with people like these. It makes this job so pleasant. So thank them. I hope they're listening, but probably not. I had asked our attorney about, can we record executive session? And I'm putting that out there because I think myself, the two largest contracts that we negotiate and vote on in this city are negotiated in the dark. You know, the door to the sunshine should not be closed to the largest contracts that we negotiate in the city. And you know, you were prudent. You said to me that can have impacts both ways. But for me, I would rather the residents absolutely know what's going on and see what's going on and know how hard we work to get to where we get to and what it entails. And you know, I don't want to keep on belaboring the point, but we all got a letter from the fire union about references made to that contract, and I really think people need to understand the ramifications of that contract. So employees who worked 1 day on and 2 days off are now working 1 day on and 3 days off. And I just did a little chart to see what that works out to. First week, 2 days off. Second week, 2 days of work. Second week, 2 days of work. Third week, 2 days of work. Fourth week, 1 day of work. And that in conjunction with the 8-year drop, which allows a candidate, male or female, in the fire department to walk out the door at retirement with $600,000 and a pension for the rest of their life. These contracts are getting to the point where they are suffocating us financially. And that last fire contract that I keep on referencing, the 1 day on and 3 day off, is going to result in the taxpayers having to hire 22 new firefighters. Next year, I believe, Mr. Moore, is that correct?
However, I'm thinking a little bit differently in terms of efficiencies in operations to address that. However, if all conditions will remain exactly as is, that would be the approximate correct outcome.
I look forward to that discussion because I feel the weight of that contract is going to be financially suffocating to our taxpayers. And that is why I think this process should be more transparent. Residents should know what's going on, how they're being represented. And if the process were more transparent, these contracts could look slightly different. And don't get me wrong, I've said it before and I will say it again. I want our employees to feel appreciated. I want them to feel satisfied, and I want them to feel happy with how they're compensated. But we are working within parameters.
I'd like to respond to that because
wait, no, I have the floor. You can respond
I'll
after.
respond to that. Before
Mayor,
we go on to something else, I want to respond.
I have the floor.
You get recognized.
Thank you.
Finish.
I'm not done. City, I was wondering if we should ask if we can put out a positive statement about the rollback. The city sometimes puts out statements. We're working tirelessly to make sure that we are not impacting anybody. And I think that we should put out something to override this negative messaging that's saying that we're going to be impacting services. We do a lot of messaging. I still have the floor.
Yeah. Well, could we?
Are you in agreement with that? I mean, we do all kinds of messaging all the time.
The city should talk about the millage.
And they can do it, and you can approve the messaging because I think we should put out something that says we are working tirelessly both to save you money and not impact your services, because that is what we are doing.
I do think that the property appraiser said something which nobody has mentioned. It's called truth in millage.
Right.
And we're the only ones that did, and she recognized that just because things go up, you shouldn't be doing. And she actually recognized truth in millage, and that's what.
And listen, I feel, and our staff is amazing, that we can find creative ways to fill the hole. Missy had a brilliant idea about valet parking. There are other ideas. We talked about potentially fast-tracking some things. There are ideas and ways we can fill the hole and not impact the residents, and that's what I'm looking to do.
Commissioner Long?
Wait,
Okay.
I'm not done. I still have 2 more items. I'm sorry, but it's my time. Badger. Mr. Moore, you put out something in your information letter about Badger, and I was hoping we could just quickly, you could let us know, because it's a little, we were supposed to be done with Badger by now. And in the email, it says something about replacing faulty and defective devices. There was a meeting which involved you, the utilities director, and the city attorney. Is Badger paying us for what we're still doing, which is reading these faulty, trying to get a read, because we have faulty meters? Are we compensated for that? We are not being compensated at all.
No.
Is that unusual? We've got staff. Sometimes we had 3 or 4 staff out on weekends trying to. No, I'm asking you, Mr. Moore, Mr. Hajimiri, one moment, please. We had staff out reading meters on the weekends. Is it unusual that we're not being compensated if their meters were faulty?
It is not unusual, no.
City Attorney, do you have anything, can someone shed some light on when we are going to see the end of this tunnel and how our residents are going to be compensated, if at all, for what is really faulty technology?
You're asking me?
I'm asking anybody who can
we had a
answer the
meeting with
question.
them. I think had we negotiated that early on, it probably would have put us in a better position, because, if Badger had to pay for the manual reads, I think they would have been quicker to install these replacement encoders. That wasn't done. We did have a meeting with them several weeks ago. Last week, Mr. Hajimiri for Mr. Moore authored a counter proposal, and in that counter proposal, which they don't have to accept, but we did put language in there that says that if this isn't done by a certain date, they will reimburse the city for all of the man hours or the taxpayer
So
money
we didn't
that
negotiate
spent.
that up front, you're saying? Okay, thank you. That's extremely disappointing. And lastly, we did have our goal setting. Is there going to be follow-up information given to us with respect to where we all came down at goal setting? Where are we going? How are we going forward? What are, our priorities? So we can revisit that list as we are looking at this budget term.
We will be working with Michelle Ferguson to finalize a summary based on direction and outcomes of the May 3rd, 2024 goal-setting session. We'll be following up with her to deliver that report.
And would you also let us know how much money we are spending for these manual reads and whatnot at some point?
We will.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
It's a part of the Department of Utilities operation, and
Right.
it's very well contained and is sufficient in that regard. However, we will do what we can to aggregate what that cost is in terms of your question.
Thank you very much. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
that. I'm done.
Commissioner Long?
Every single meeting, this issue of the fire contract gets brought up, and it's not a real message, it's a political message every time. It's not based in fact, it's often taken out of context and riddled with inaccuracies. That contract was unanimously approved last year. Okay, I was there. We were all in agreement on that contract, and that contract was middle of the pack. We went into great detail to make sure that it was middle of the pack in the county. So this whole thing where it's an atrocity in every single budget issue we have, frankly, every issue we have is somehow tethered to that fire contract. This comes up in every meeting. Find a new message. We get it. You don't like the fire union. They didn't support you in 2 of your elections, but it's getting old. This is such a waste of commission time to keep going over this. I'm so tired of hearing it. The other thing, okay, let's talk like the millage. We weren't all in agreement about the millage, right? Staff wasn't in agreement about the millage conversation, right? We're going to now have to dip into our reserves. So I don't know. I'm not saying we need to put out negative messaging, but I don't necessarily think we need to, snow the residents on what happened up here. I'm not going to be in favor of putting out some fake message to make it look like that was a great decision. So I'm not going to be in favor of that either. That's, again, more political messaging up here. Why don't we just focus on doing our jobs here instead of trying to control the narrative and create political propaganda from the dais? Because I'm getting really sick and tired of it.
Yes? Yes?
Well, that wasn't a unanimous vote on that contract. The mayor voted no.
Okay,
I'm
Mr.
sorry,
Mayor?
I thought you were handing it to me.
No.
I didn't plan to offer any additional feedback, but given the commentary being offered at this time,
Sure.
Thank
Jump
you.
right in.
Thank you. The August 13th meeting, the Office of the City Manager has committed during the July 25th outcome regarding the rollback rate is committed to offering definitive outcomes to achieve a balanced budget recommendation, as well as to maintain level of services based on a direction having been achieved during the July 25th meeting. And I would like for everybody to please understand, Commissioner Burns, you were present, Commissioner Marker, you were present. Later that evening, we hosted the town hall engagement where I was the principal MC, if you will, and I talked enthusiastically about the direction having been offered by the City Commission and what's being done to make it work. August 13th will be an opportunity to succinctly summarize via workshop meeting where we are in terms of addressing the gap, if you will, conservatively about $1.7 million. We began working on that immediately after July 25th. So that we can prepare for August 13th, as I've asked the commission to engage and host a meeting in that regard. So I really think that all members of the commission should please be proud of our efforts because we do work hard. There's commentary about mistakes being made. However, we get it right far more than we get it wrong. And that includes the single challenge that we're experiencing in that regard to make it not a challenge and to do what we can to offer concrete considerations. And I think we've done a lot of good work, and I'll be looking forward to engaging with you all 1 week from tomorrow so that we can get to the place of a balanced budget adoption a la the rollback rate direction. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, any opportunity for engagement or public commentary would be appropriate thereafter. So give us 1 week and 1 day, August 13th, 2024, to outline for you why we are where we are. And from there, all concerned can go from there because we'll be pretty open, transparent, and public about that. And frankly, I began that exercise enthusiastically the evening of July 25th, 2024, a lot of town hall meeting. Commissioner Burns, Commissioner Market, can I have a witness, please? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the update. Now, 2 things. I did go to St. Vincent Ferrer, met with the pastor this past week, who praised Ariana, said how great she is to work with on the various programs that they're doing, which is, because they do some outreach there, as many churches do, and I'm sure Ariana's working with them all. I'm just passing on this St. Vincent Ferrer's compliments. Secondly, I'm going to ask for, and only because I saw the workshop agenda meeting for the 13th, which we've talked about. One of the items on there is the Atlantic Avenue Historic District. I'm going to respectfully ask that we push that back because I haven't met with everybody that I want to meet with, including the Historic Preservation Trust people, including some of the property owners, the stakeholders on the avenue, and nor have I really had a chance to meet with staff. I was supposed to get with Anthea and Jeff, which I have not yet done because we've been preoccupied with other things up here. So, and while since there's really nothing, there's no urgency to it, but we want to get it done. I'd like to do it get it done right. So if I'm, with the consensus of the commission, can we move it off that workshop agenda?
To when?
Until I have all my meetings and everything. I mean, I'm not really kind of ready to, I don't want to do it just because everyone says, I want to meet on historic, because
No, I think it's a great idea.
I think the historic people would rather I do it right than me just to vote no.
No, they would, and they probably appreciate you moving it because most of them aren't here this summer,
Right,
so
because I
having
really want
them-
to sit down with the Historic Preservation
Yeah,
Trust.
I think it's a
and-
great
and-
idea.
And
Good
everyone.
idea.
So, do we have a consensus? It's okay to
Sure.
move? Okay, so just, we can keep it at a date until we, because I'll be meeting with staff probably next week. I'm going to meet with the Historic Preservation Trust probably next week. And I've got a couple of the property owners who have come to me with some ideas. And the Chamber of Commerce weighed in on it today, although I haven't read their email. They've weighed in on what they think that they would like to see, so.
So what I anticipate now taking place Tuesday, August 13th, 2024, is a fairly succinct workshop meeting. First item, the process of achieving a balanced budget recommendation based on a rollback recommendation, followed by a discussion regarding tree removal activities, etc. Those are your two agenda items for workshop meeting, and therefore I would like to propose that that takes place at 5 o'clock p.m.
Are stumps included within the tree removal definition?
It would be part of that context,
Okay,
Mr.
good.
Mayor. Yes, sir.
I mean, I don't want to have to mention it again.
So we'll be on our way in that regard, but those are your two items. 5 o'clock, 1 week, 1 day from now.
All right. We are adjourned.
Good night.
Is the stump included?